All right, what's going on, everybody? We're back live here again on the Coffee and Cigars.
Or something like that. Thursday night.
Thursday, June 29th, and it's kind of smoky outside. Did you notice that?
It's hazardous outside.
Yes.
The AQI, as they say, is way too high for
200.
now. Well, I don't. It was in the 170s in
It's
in
150
DC, Virginia.
150 to 200 all day today.
But the thing is that we are naturally inoculated as professional cigar smokers.
True.
We are pros at calculating. Although it seems that what's out there is significantly worse and coarser particulate matter than is that we would normally encounter in your favorite cigar lounge.
Unless it's steel.
But it's kind of like Blade Runner out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You missed the last one, Jay. It was worse. The last one was worse.
Yeah, the last one was worse than this.
Was it
the
worse
last
than
time was more.
You couldn't see like 20 feet in front of you.
Well, and it wouldn't
Wow,
move.
that bad?
It didn't, it just lingered. It was like the old days. Like I said on the way up here, it was like the old days of 70s smog. When the dome was just over the city in LA, and that was it. There was it didn't. There was no chance of relief. At least with this, the wind eventually comes and disperses it, moves it away, and we go back to. But I always told people, I said, listen, if you're of a certain age, you're raised away. I don't trust any air I can't see.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, it kind of reminds me of that. It made me think today because I didn't see it the last time I was away, but
You were lucky.
It made me think that this must be what it's like in that movie Interstellar, when the planet was dying. It was like, oh man, this
Got to get out.
There's no escape from it.
Let's go find another planet to fuck up.
That's right.
What else? Let's find but we're going to be mad at other people when they come here and say, by the way, life here is better. You
shouldn't have done that.
You shouldn't have done that. We're going to stop you from damaging our future home any further.
Nice. Brian and Mom, say hello to everybody.
All right.
What's
We
going
miss
on?
you guys. By the way, am I allowed to say
Of
this
course,
now
of
since
course.
you put the okay on it? I propose that we have a Christmas party a couple of weeks in advance. I'm going to bring special eggnog for us, right? So we'll all have plenty of time to accumulate some cool cigars between now and then, but I'm going to bring special eggnog, and we can have a gathering. Hopefully, Rusty
I feel like we should have an eggnog throwdown because we do know a guy that.
You know what?
We do know a guy that makes spectacular eggnog.
All the better. So let's put an open call out there. It's like an egg. But by the way, in order to do that, that means we have to establish a couple of judges.
Yeah.
Because there have to, if you're going to have an eggnog throwdown, it can't just be the last person standing is the one who gets to say whether which eggnog was the best.
And I have a feeling with most of these that's probably the case when you get to 3 or 4 cups in.
Well, by the way,
judges.
you'll have to modify the scoring form for coffee to produce the eggnog card, and it has to be simplified for people who are so high that they, so it'll have to be a large, poster size, and you can fill in the numbers with a crayon. Right, exactly. I love it. That's good. We're all in the same. So can I ask you a question? So by the way, the reason why I was mentioning that is because we want all you guys to plan. This should be another party. This is a parking lot throwdown here at the Sproastery.
Yeah. In the cold.
Well,
be like a nice tailgate.
But if you're out there with the thing up, we can be dressed for it, right? So we'll bring cold weather cigars, and we can have maybe the prize could actually be, if you do good enough, we give you a horse blanket and you can stop. Right, exactly.
Yeah. So you're in horse country, so that's not
precisely. We could. It's possible. So mark your calendars for December-ish.
December-ish. All right. Excellent. And Brian says, nice haircut.
Oh, thank you. That's nice.
Did you get it done?
Actually, sharp eye, Brian. I got it done this morning. Specifically because I was coming up here, it's like I'm between these two handsome fellows, so I got to do my best to.
I haven't had a haircut in
Well, you've been gone. You've been gone.
Yeah, I've been traveling across the world.
Usually I get a haircut before I leave.
Yeah.
Like right before I leave, because my barber's always like, "Oh, where are you going this time?"
Right.
Because I only come in when it's time to get my haircut.
Exactly.
So, who do you have a barber, or do you just go haircuttery or something?
No. I'm opposed to, as you can tell, I'm opposed to high-priced salons. I like going to a barber. And I what I'm interested in is like the evolution. You remember how shoe repair shops got taken over by essentially people who were ex-cons, they got trained in prison.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Shoe repair franchises and stuff. And so
Shawshank Redemption kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So they
that's what put my grandfather out of business.
Right. No, but seriously, it's and by the way, let's not begrudge them the idea of, taking your smelly ass shoes and pounding some nails into it. It's a tough living. So, but the barber shops are gradually changing in their demographic makeup, and so depending upon where you are, you're likely to hear a variety of languages, none of which are English.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Most barbershops. By the way,
I thought you were going to say the evolution has been moved more towards like a hipster kind of like younger.
No. But that's
bearded.
Those people, the fancy barbers that want to wear, arm garters and a vest, that are close cousins to cocktail chemists.
Okay, my barber's not like that.
Right. No, he
doesn't wear the
guy that's selling mustache wax and wants to is encouraging you to
have a man bun.
If you have to spend more than $25 or $30 to get a haircut, you're in a salon, all right? And you might as well, before you know it, somebody's doing your nails.
That's not true. That's not always true. Like True Fit and Heal used to cost, well, still does.
Those guys are scamsters, though. See, those are posers. Because, by the way, they want to sell you glorified toilet water for $100, It's like, no. Look, there should be a bottle of that blue goo that they're dropping the combs in, and you got to get a barber shop.
Is supposed to be the little dispenser for the
yes, exactly for the hot, to conclude. And again, same thing. That's a skill which is being passed to a new generation of people who are not exactly homegrown, and it's fantastic. But so there's
that's interesting because where I go. They're
all still
Americans.
White guys?
All still, well, not white. Actually, yeah, and girls, but
aging white guys.
They're not aging. They're young guys. They're younger than us. That's why. That's
good for them.
That's why I'm like, to hear that it's a mixture of immigrants.
I think it's the whole. And by the way, there's nothing that says that they can't have. Like a barbershop is a great place to go to. In certain parts of the country, the barbershop is a place which is like the equivalent of the Cracker Barrel. The drum beats and the news travels, and you go. Right. That's where you learn what the hell's going down in the community, and you can hear the word from the street in a way that isn't it's never going to happen when you're in a salon and there's a coat check girl and somebody asks, are you doing the full mani-pedi today, and blah blah blah, and are you going to have a facial while you're here today? Right, exactly. I mean, come on.
But do the new school barbers still shave?
Absolutely. Well, you're in the wrong place if they can't give you a straight razor shave.
Right. So it does yours?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
You did not avail of that today.
I thank you for noticing. It means you're actually paying attention.
They clipped it up though.
Yeah, it's shaped a little bit. It was very like homeless guy sleeping in the gutter when I woke up this morning. Right. Exactly. You got to trim it up a little bit. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. As you can see, the Three Musketeers have reconvened in order to examine something. But before we get to our little gem today, which actually is something that we have been anticipating for a long time.
A long time.
We are we're here to. Oh, look at that! Nice. Oops. Clearly, I haven't been to Lego school. It's time to drink something that Tony brought, right?
Yeah, Tony, you brought this. You should talk about it.
So this is the La Colombe Cold Brew Extra Bold, Brazilian coffees and some other things. I remembered Jay taking me to Philly to La Colombe, and I saw this in the grocery store and went, I wonder what they can do with iced coffee. So they do their own little canned beverages, which my brother had out in California. So
yeah, the canned versions are actually very. Do you mind if I pour?
Please.
The only problem with the canned versions, because I have encountered those, I've never seen this packaging. So
that latte
I'm
one,
interested.
right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but they're
like the mocha, the latte, and the.
But they're all too sweet.
Yes.
They're all pre-sweetened, and they're too much. I want to be able to do that myself. I want to be able to make the decision. But so, don't you? I mean, do you want, or do you like sweet coffee?
No, not normally. This is extra bold. It's extra bold.
And usually for me, when I do iced coffee, because I still want full tilt, I'll do iced coffee with 3 ounces of espresso and then a little bit of cream and
so you're making a
whatever you want to call that, a red eye latte. I don't know, iced red eye latte. What would that be?
well, no, but a latte has foamed milk in it, right?
So just with milk.
So cheers to everybody. Have a
cheers, everybody.
Hope your week has been good, and wish you were here with us. It's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's kind of bright, actually. Dark roasted, but bright.
Right. A little bit, a little bit of citrus on the front edge, right? But it'll do.
It'll do.
And by the way, it's not so.
It's not as bad as I was expecting.
It's not. Yeah, exactly right. Which is a
is an okay thing.
Right. This is a supermarket product, right?
Yes.
So it's accessible. You can keep this chilled, and exactly, it'll last even if you open it, because if you refrigerate it, you close it up properly, and to have it. But it's also not. This is not so aggressive or in either direction. Like over. It's not sweetened. But it should be effective for keeping our whistles wet while we are burning.
Yeah, and it's not overly roasted to interfere with that.
Right. It's not so it's not Starbucks.
Nice.
So if you will pass me the implement, we will actually begin the unboxing. And because we don't. What's that? Do we want to go forward? Yeah.
We'll go there.
So
you can look here if you want to see, so you can get a better idea of where it is.
The objective here is that we are cracking this, and I'm telling you now that we're all going to discover exactly what's in here at precisely the same time. Because
positively or negatively, depending on how it turns out.
Well, here let's do. I want to do slit the ends again. Try and let everybody in on the party.
George Shem is with us.
All right,
George, welcome.
I knew it. I'm so. All right. So this is yes.
There you go.
Just so you see, these are a Robusto and the Corona Gorda of the Meir blend, and we'll talk a little bit about what makes Meerapfel. But so, Jay, actually, Tony, will you do that one and let him do the full? Since he tends, we don't want him to run out before the. And since I have experienced these before, I can suffer with a different.
Don't suffer. Now,
that's quite a nice looking.
Well, that band is, as you can see, it's cut. That's a laser cut. It's like
there's holes.
It's evolutionary. You're seeing the tobacco through it.
Oh wow!
That is designed to show like Belgian lace.
So the theme's Cameroon, right?
Yes. This is
I can help
as exotic
I can help you, George. Not with a Meerapfel.
And if you look closely, you can see what's on the Meerapfel is on the name of the bands.
All right.
Is that him on the back of the band?
Pick your poison.
Well, it's important. I'm gonna do this instead because first of all, I love this book. Fact that this is non-Meerapfel Cameroon. But I what's interesting? I have not had an Aladino Cameroon this season.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to keep my thoughts and my smoke to myself because this is about what you guys think about the Meerapfel and this Meir blend, and they are.
So this is the follow-up to what was the first?
Well, the first one released was the Richard, but there was only one size.
Yes.
So to get to the, let's do this again right here. I'm going to leave that right there in case the camera wants to be focused. There are projected 4 blends of Meerapfel.
Projected.
Yes, because they're not all released yet. The blends have been designed, and essentially
Were you involved with that?
No, I can't take credit for that. I have been involved and friends of members of the Meerapfel family for years, but this was done under super secret conditions in Europe. And I'll talk a little bit more about the tobacco as we get a little deeper into this. But let me just say that what I was trying to say is that there are 4 blends that comprise the Meerapfel portfolio as it is designed, each one of which is named for a generation of the family. So one of the things that makes this remarkable that this has come out now is that it's roughly 100 years since the family has had a cigar with their name on it. Jeremiah Meerapfel, the person who is Jeremiah and his brother Josh, are.
I'm sorry, you said how many years?
Over 100 years since they had or let's say roughly 100 years since there was a Meerapfel cigar branded, which in those days, back then, was made in a Meerapfel factory.
Now, was there a reason they stopped making 100 years ago? I mean, that's known today. Or?
Well, a lot of things. I don't know how much is recorded directly in the Meerapfel family, but the obvious reason is that they were Jews in Germany, and that sort of came to an end. Right.
Well, that kind of helps.
So
that kind of breaks up the
right.
business.
What it didn't stop was the family's involvement with tobacco, but the factory had to cease. So what Jeremiah always wanted to do was restore his family to the marketplace being a brand as opposed to just a background, a purveyor of tobacco products.
Okay.
And that was his mission from the moment. So to again, what I'm trying to say is that there were 4 generations. It is Ernest, Meir, Heller, and Richard. Those are the 4 generations, and there are at least 4 sizes in each one of those blend iterations. All the classic Cuban portfolio. In other words, there's a Robusto, which is an old-fashioned Robusto, not a 54 or 56 ring gauge. A Corona Gorda, a double Robusto, a Pyramid, a Churchill. So each one of them each iteration of the blends will have essentially 4 sizes, and then in some of the blends there'll be an additional size eventually released, which might be attuned to that particular blend. So, for instance, I think ultimately in the Richard blend there's going to be a Lancero. But so 4 blends, 4 generations. The Richard has been released in one size only, and I'm speaking about what's been happening here in the U.S., not about what's been happening worldwide, because they're a little bit ahead of us in Europe and in parts of Asia.
So that's a question that Brian has. Were these cigars only sold in Europe in the beginning? So did they start in Europe with the release and then came here eventually?
By a very short period of time. In other words, the first cigars were released last year. And it was sort of news that that they had finally come out and that there was going to be some available, but there was not. They weren't ready to ship yet, to release. But what they did finally get some product into the U.S. before the end of the year, and in limited fashion, which is the case all over the world. But the European collection of European vendors who are all very, very close with Jeremiah and Josh. In other words, the essentially, I guess now, if you're measuring it precisely, I think that they feel that they're the 6th generation of Meerapfels in the tobacco business. Their Ernst, the person who started the cigar factory over 100 years ago, was the 2nd generation involved. So Ernst, I never met Ernst, but and I obviously I didn't know Meir either. But Meir's son Heller was one of the people who taught me a tremendous amount about tobacco in the early 1970s when I first started in the cigar business. And exciting and thrilling. He was a great guy, a great man, a great teacher. And his son Richard who was essentially in my peer group. Became a great friend, and he died tragically young. And it really, since Richard passed away, both Jeremiah and Josh have been, their first mission was to keep the business going. But the second was that Jeremiah decided early on it was time to start setting aside tobacco to create a brand which would be a tribute to their family legacy and re-enter the marketplace as a proper brand, as opposed to just this legendary family back behind the curtain. Richard and his efforts single-handedly saved, and this is not up for debate, he saved the Cameroon tobacco industry. When the French, when Cameroon achieved its independence and the French withdrew and the monopoly was no longer responsible for what would happen to the tobacco.
I got that ashtray.
It's going to the center.
Just continue with your narrative.
When the French withdrew, essentially, Cameroon descended into chaos, and there were, reasons that are not just about the tobacco business, but that market essentially vanished. And there was a huge struggle. There was no one, because it's not just about growing; it's what happens to the tobacco after it's in the field and you pick it and get it ready. And those people that have spent so much time raising this product have to be paid, right? So effectively, you need a cooperative. Richard engineered that. He made it possible, and in fact, also fostered, because there was a period of time where it was important that not everybody, in order to not be interrupted for cigar makers for supply, they needed. To augment the source. So that's where tobacco, that's how farming Cameroon seed tobacco started in the Central African Republic, their neighbor. And to this day, there's a I won't say thriving, because it's a struggle. There's so many things going on there. But the Central African Republic contributes some. But again, Jeremiah started saving tobacco and setting it aside and declaring, this is it. We're going to save these. So the Meir in particular, the one that you gentlemen are about to light up, is made with tobacco that is between, I'd say, 13 years and 20 years of age. Okay. Right? Which is pretty remarkable. You can't walk in a cigar store anywhere else and say, these are cigars that are made with tobacco that's over a decade old.
Now, is that just for the wrapper, or for
no, for the components that are in it. They've been setting aside tobacco. Jeremiah and Josh, his brother, have been setting aside tobacco for over 20 years.
So is that to say, as they've been going into business, they've come across tobacco that they really like, and then they just set it aside?
They said, we have to save this for a special project. We're going to do this for yes, exactly. we're going to pay tribute to our family's legacy, and in a way they were children of the era, because they were both very young when their father died. Not that they weren't aware of what was going on, but they were conscious. The cigar boom was happening, and they were conscious that if you don't have a brand in the marketplace which you present and promote aggressively, then you're invisible to the new generation of cigar consumers. I mean, it took the Plasencias a long time to achieve market identity and success with the brand. They made many efforts because people didn't know that what the Plasencia name meant. Don't let me stop you guys from lighting up because I'm eager to
let's
smell.
let's recap. So
Compare notes.
How was your
What's your cold draw
fragrance?
like?
Fragrance was very nice. Earthy, sweet. No real barnyard, almost date or kind of raisiny, dark, something like that.
Dates and raisin. That's interesting. Okay.
And a fantastic cold draw. I mean, it's very effortless.
It's lively,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Do you find that the draw itself is very light or tight? How's your draw?
The draw on the Robusto is a little lighter than I prefer. I like a little more resistance.
You mean a little looser is what you're saying?
Yeah,
You would
correct.
say light?
Correct. A little.
Definitely, I would agree with that. There's
But
definitely consistency there.
but it's going to be I mean, it's going to be effortless to smoke.
Yeah, which is part of the mission.
design. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I would like.
And cold draw, cold flavors, pre-light.
I think it's very sweet, and I think it's very mellow on the cold draw.
Because it's mature.
I would agree with that.
And rested in this beautiful box for basically 6 months. Because you remember when we first proposed doing this.
Oh yeah.
We were going to do this in early February.
Yeah.
Would you describe this as good, very good, excellent, or beyond? The cold draw and the fragrance.
Cold draw fragrance, I'd give probably very good plus.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
But as
So,
always,
it's subtle. I mean, it's
the proof of the pudding
is when
in the
is when I
eating.
put the torch to it
Let's put some heat on it.
All right, heat.
Picture me here imagining how happy I would be if I was smoking one of these with them. I've had the experience multiple times now, so I don't. But every time I will say this: every time I smell one of these, somebody lights one up, I think to myself, I gotta have that.
You think to yourself, that was a fantastic day. I need another one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, by the way, another you and I specifically have had this conversation before about one of the definitions of a great cigar is not only that you say, "Wow, I love that. I can't wait to smoke another one," but that it's good enough. It leaves your palate in the right shape so that you could light one up and smoke it back
Resisting
to
the
back
urge to
and
smoke
still
that
be
second one.
precisely.
like
Chain smoking.
Right.
It's just hours in the day. That's the only thing that matters about.
My first few puffs are mellow, sweetness, something approaching but not quite cinnamony.
So.
That's just from the very first couple puffs.
Right. But I don't think cinnamon is a bad note because cinnamon dances that line between sugar and spice.
But not really. It's not cinnamon per se.
No, but it's that.
I do find that there's some baking spice.
Yeah, I mean nutmeg or something.
Yes,
That's kind of that.
This collection of things that are in it, but now actually never mind. I'm not going to say it. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I want you guys
It's
to.
very smooth and very
Subtle. I mean, it's
very subtle. Mellow. I was going to say mellow, but subtle. That's great.
I mean, it's just
My take on these was always that they are elegant,
Oh, elegance.
deeply complex and elegant.
Okay.
But I will now. I'm a ventriloquist dummy while the performer is taking a break.
Well, let's catch up with some of that. Let's catch up some of the questions.
Yeah.
Stop yapping and answer some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian says, George, when you get a chance, ask Tony about my charity, My Cozy Corner. Free furniture, games, STEM, and books for elementary and middle schools and middle school children in Baltimore City and Baltimore County.
Uh-huh. And what can we do to support this charity again this year? Because remember, last year we contributed some stuff.
That's what we did.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So he said to ask you, can you supply additional information? Is there an event coming up? Is there an occasion?
No, he did get more. He did get an equal number of schools. He is in the process of acquiring his stuff, the actual physical desk books, whatnot. The woman whose charity is the books, I think she committed to the same number of books that she did last year.
Well, so my question to is, what can we do to contribute? In other words, is there an auction? Is there something going that's a fundraiser for the charity that we can support?
Let us know.
Yes. So we're interested in the answer to
Put
that.
in the comments.
Right. Link in bio.
Link in bio. Well, Brian says he's looking for 3 more schools. First come, first serve opportunity. I guess they have to.
Right. They have to commit. The schools have to say, we want to be the recipients of the.
And the space for it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And George Shem says, great to see both of you guys back on the show. Welcome back.
And we miss
Thanks,
you.
Jet.
We miss you very much.
Or maybe he was talking. I guess he's talking to George. One about those schools. Okay. There we go. And then Brian was saying that with relation to the question that he had earlier, he meant that were the family only selling in Europe 100 years ago?
No. They were exporters, but you have to think about 100 years ago. Almost every consumable product, if you will, whether it's beer or cigars or tobacco, was regional in nature, right? In other words, you didn't have 100 years ago in this country, with very few exceptions, you couldn't buy English cigarettes, right? You bought American-made product or English cigars. You were, with the exception of the most elite outlets, you were buying something that was essentially produced locally. So they were not global exporters because the mechanism for that wasn't really there. Not that there weren't people who were taking their product to other markets.
I imagine that the cigar smokers of those times, the ones that were into it, I guess, would try to collect from other parts of the world.
Sure, but they would have to be self motivated and have not just the resources but the mobility to do that, because you didn't have large scale export wholesalers, right? In other words, and by the way, you many times what you were up against was who had a better advantage at supplying local purveyors. So remember that 100 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 100 years ago, but there would have been over 1,000 tobacco manufacturers in Germany alone, let alone Austria, the Netherlands, so for instance, 100 years ago in New York City alone, there were 500 cigar companies, cigar manufacturers, cigar rollers, right? So it's a different world, and what you had to do to compete with it, to compete in that market was very, very different. You're not talking about. Remember that refrigeration wasn't a fact of life in those days. So, beer, which is, we think of as a global commodity now. Beer was available as far as the delivery cart could take it from the brewery.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't have Budweiser. Adolphus Busch is the guy that figured out a refrigerated cart to expand the circle of his distribution, and the beer business was forever changed.
This is a very mellow, mild smoke. Like it's not that harsh. Like
it's not a power cigar. It's not a punch you in the chest.
But it's not.
It's the farthest, but it's not wimpy.
Right. No, I don't think it's meant to be. I mean, it's
right. Agree 1,000%.
Like I'm trying to do some inhaling or like retro.
Well, do retrohale,
and there's no burn.
Well, yeah, but again, and what you're experiencing?
aged tobacco.
Aged tobacco, properly blended and properly rested. That's what should happen. That's what a great cigar should deliver. And by the way, it should also provide you with plenty of flavor without being that wildly powerful.
Well, Jay, if you can get in on here, I don't think I could have a
better burn line.
Better burn line on that guy.
Look how beautiful it is, and the mascara is very, very thin.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, the combustion point. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Razor sharp.
I just have to resist the urge to
Great.
like a freight train.
Right.
Yeah, there is that urge to smoke it harder.
Yeah,
I know. And you're a fast smoker anyway. When I thought that there were going to be 3 sizes in this unit, and I was volunteering to smoke the Robusto and let Jay choose like a Churchill and Tony have a Torpedo. And I figured because I never shut up, my cigar will last the same length of time. But obviously, circumstances.
So are you smoking one now?
I'm not smoking anything because I have a cigar that I'm going to light up after you guys have been through a little bit more, because I don't want aroma or I don't want anything to conflict with what's happening with this right now.
Right. You don't want to invade this palace.
Right. I am not going to be the thief badger in your garden. I'm not going to be the fantastic Mr. Fox raiding Boggle Bunsen Bean.
So even like yeah, that super aged is just like there's no burn, there's no roughness. It's just super smooth.
It's like silk. It's like silk on your palate. It's gentle as baby talc on the retrohale. The flavor keeps coming, and by the way, the thing that I noticed as I smoked mine was that the taste, the actual, not just texture, but the flavors that were occurring kept evolving. It was never the same cigar.
Yeah.
It tells a full and complete story.
For me, it's very. I think Tony's word earlier was really descriptive of it. It's very subtle. It's a subtle, complex cigar that's not popping with like.
Now,
with flavors, I guess it doesn't like.
So the question I have to ask you is, when you use subtle in that case, and I think I know what you were meaning, Tony, but when you use subtle, is that a nice way of saying that it's exactly? Is there something pejorative or derogatory in it? Would you like more coffee, George? Yes, why not?
Allow me.
Thank you. As long as I'm not smoking, I will.
Might as well drink some more
Light
coffee.
bait.
Right. Exactly.
No, this is in this
Pour me
case.
some more, George, please.
We're used to cigars that have a lot of oomph, a lot of power, a lot of strength, and when the flavors are coming up, the flavors are very pronounced.
Yes.
Right? They're kind of like I'm here and I'm here and I'm here. This is none of that. This is
just
subtle and mellow and blended and complex.
Just
honestly,
come along.
It
It's
also
literally
sort of
just
creeps up on you.
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Some of the things that are happening are very, very, very modest.
but I gotta be honest with you. As a taster, this is a challenge.
Oh, you mean because you
Because
think it's
It's super subtle. It's super blended. It's super complex. But since it's not like pronounced, like the flavors aren't just kind of like popping up here and there. It's like, Oh, this is a challenge to identify.
So, you Philistine barbarian, what you're saying is that elegant and
Refined?
complex and refined are not in your wheelhouse.
No. I'm saying that as a taster, this is
Not
truly
now,
a
Keiko.
challenge. This is really a challenge. This is like really like you don't come. Well, I've never had a cigar that was this refined. That has this complexity. That doesn't have
Some pronounced flavor.
Yeah, there's nothing like really
You're
truly.
saying there's
pronounced.
nothing that you can grasp. It's all
Well, you
just
really have
blended.
you really have to
Have to
dig.
look in,
Like you
yeah.
really have to.
But you realize what you're describing.
Mhm.
Exactly what an aged Havana is.
Yeah.
So, by the way, that's something that we should consider. If you want me to come up with some 25 or 30-year-old Havana cigars for you to compare to
Yeah.
this specifically, because that's the only thing
That's gonna get close.
that will even enter the same conversation that these are conducting. And
You're
by the way,
saying that
the aroma of that cigar is driving me absolutely fucking wild.
you're saying that really kind of triggers in my mind that like the best examples of the Monty number 2 that I've ever had, and the one time that I had a really amazing Signal 54,
Mhm.
there are characteristics of that.
But
here.
you mean a Behike 54 or
No,
Siglo
regular
6?
Siglo.
Siglo 6.
Behike
yeah.
54,
I can
and I've
give
had
a
Signal 3s.
word, all the times I've been here, this is the best smelling cigar I think I've ever.
I mean, the
There you go.
smell
Is
is
that the Peanut Gallery has voted.
everything about it
The-
is
the-
just
the
super
sensory-
It's
yes.
really,
refined. It's
really,
got-
it's just like nice,
Elegant.
nice.
It's not. Yeah. I look. I obviously I'm absurdly biased, not just because of my love and respect for the members of the Meerapfel family, but I'm in love with this cigar. It is. I've always been a champion of the unique.
See if you
And
can
the-
show the.
yes.
If you flip it around, that should give you a better look.
So
of
let's. No, it should be this way. I think to show the type of the Meerapfel. Can you see if I tilt it?
Look
Can
at
you
that.
read?
Holy
Can you read
crap.
what's happening with that? And literally, so look at. I guess the
You
best
get-
way.
do
No,
it
that
this.
worked. That was
Flip it
working
around
really
the
well.
back,
That was
George.
working really well.
show it the white side, you can really see the cutout.
Specifically designed to, this is to evoke Belgian lace.
What is that?
The little mark that's here? It says, if you can read this, you're too fucking close. No.
What does it say?
That's probably the name of the printer. Oh yeah, it is actually the name of the printer of the band, which is
Oh,
one of the
The
two
Danish guy?
most exotic printers in the world. But and I'm sure that the guy that did it literally had a nervous breakdown executing this design. So, but here's the other thing I want to point out. As I mentioned to you, the 4 generations, each one of the generations of these cigars have a different band, a different pattern, a different,
a different.
So
like,
it's like,
cutout.
yeah, again, this is meant to evoke Belgian lace,
Mm.
right? And you know that one of the things that defines Belgian lace is that there are collectible aspects there. So
And Jay, I very definitely agree with you. This is the Cohiba Siglo 6. That was the best Cohiba I've smoked, and that's the reason why I still buy them, even though most of them are direct.
yeah, they don't reach that.
No.
But you're always searching for that one fantastic
That's correct, because
experience.
it was like, oh my God,
It was
this
the
is
greatest
amazing.
thing. It was a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because, by the way, the Cohiba Siglo 6 introduced a new level of flavor to the entire Cohiba portfolio, where none of the other Siglos had done it. The Siglo 6 delivered the goods. Not that the Siglo 4 isn't an interesting cigar, but nonetheless. So, and again, look where you are. Look at the construction and the ash. Can we maybe move those
Yeah.
again onto? Yeah, Tony, move yours a little bit. Yeah. I mean, look at that. Look at the burn.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, so Brian wants to know what was different about the Meerapfel Richard. Have you had it yet?
Yeah. Well, the Richard is the first thing that we smoked, and the first of all, the only size of Richard that people in the U.S. have smoked so far is what they call a double robusto. So it's
And then the humidor box or the fancy.
well, no, they come. The Richards only come, and that size will always be. It comes 10 to a beautiful work of art porcelain ashtray.
Oh, I saw.
That's the only way you can get it. And each iteration, each blend. So in other words, the Richard, the Meir, the Heller, and the Ernst will all have their own special color and artwork for the ashtray.
He didn't want to send
And
the
the-
ashtrays.
What's that?
He didn't want to send an ashtray to us.
Well, there. Let me make something very clear. There's not enough of them to go around. They're selling everywhere. By the way, the next time that we get together, I'll bring you an ashtray so you can see it, but I'm not going to give it to you
That's
because
fine.
I only have one.
I just want to touch it.
But they're and also to those of you that are there, I promise that you will never again see me hanging out with a couple of guys smoking Meerapfels, and I'm not. That's an accident
That's fair.
of this.
Right? That's fair. That is a yes. It is.
So-
That's a crime. This is okay. So it's changing. Mine has started to change these last 3 puffs.
Something else is happening. You're
Yeah.
entering a new phase.
It's getting deeper.
right. It's getting a little maybe a little more complex. There's not there. You're still not. I don't believe you're seeing anything aggressive happening.
No.
It's not.
No,
It's not. It's not like you're
It's just more. It's deeper.
right.
It's deeper. It's more complex.
I like the way it's making you struggle to define
Man,
what the
it's
changes
super.
are.
Like this is
Yeah,
super.
it's-
Good.
But so hey, here's what I want you to do. At any point, you can start making demerit marks on your score sheets if you're not happy with the changes that are occurring.
No, I can't say that though.
Right.
I mean, in good conscience, I can't say that.
Thank you.
No, the thing has to be asked. These are what, $85? Is that correct?
No. The Richards, in other words, the double robusto size, which is really what most Americans would just say, oh, that's a Toro, but it's actually a little different in dimension. That size, the one that only comes 10 count in the ashtray, laid in the ashtray like it's a work of art. Those are, depending upon the market that you're in, between 80 and 90 something. It all depends a little bit on taxes and stuff like that. And also, some retailers mark things slightly differently. But so for instance, that is like 40, 45, and this is your size there would be probably 65, or in other words, they're not the sizes in the Meir line as we've seen it now basically go from in the mid 40s to I want to say 67 or 68.
So several years ago, I had a long layover in London. So I took the tube into Mayfair, went to Fox, went to the guy, and I said to him, "Hey, I'd like to have a cigar. What do you have that country exclusive?" So he gave me his country exclusive. 55 quid.
Yeah, 55 pounds.
This
So wait a minute,
cigar,
but you're talking about pre-pandemic too.
yeah. This cigar
Is every
is
bit as
way
good.
beyond
Yes.
that one.
Right.
Way beyond.
Yes, exactly. And part of it is that cigar was probably, truthfully, not ready yet. In other words, in the old days, a London tobacconist would have said, "Oh no, this needs to rest in our cellars more. Let me suggest this." But the current state of affairs is that tobacco is in shorter supply. It's resting for a shorter period of time. The blends aren't being done the same way. The finished cigars aren't being rested the same way. So that's why I said, if you want something that we're going to compare to this kind of experience, I'm going to have to engineer aged Havanas, which are going to cost.
I think I need to tap it.
Yes, you should. There's no reason.
I'm worried that it's going to get hotter.
No,
but-
it will not. That's one of the things. Look how beautifully made it is. You're not right, and you are probably also at the same spot. But there's no evidence. Your ash is not showing like a break that it's ready to start
falling.
Right.
And I'm getting, and I wouldn't put my actual finger on the nuttiness that I'm getting, but there has creeped in a little bit of this kind of still the sweetness, still the earthiness, the spice has kind of drifted away, and we're now into this kind of little nutty,
maybe a touch leathery,
definitely.
but like old saddle leather.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the thing that I it's like well used tack. Yeah.
So George 1 says, honestly, I'm not sure my palate is refined enough to pick up on these flavor notes.
Doesn't matter. It's a great smoke.
You don't have to take a test in order to smoke it.
I think I see smoke coming out of Jay's hand trying to figure out the flavor notes. That's probably true. That's very true. But yeah, like you don't have to. This is something I think any of the viewers, any of you guys can enjoy.
Yeah,
any
George,
regular cigar smoker would enjoy the fact that this is spectacular.
Yeah, rich,
and it's so different than everything else.
Yeah. There is no cigar that you can walk into a humidor and buy that rivals this, at least in the United States.
How about the Byron stuff?
Well, that's interesting. They're in a really. We should have a tasting session for that, but they are not relying on tobacco that's been aged the same way.
It doesn't. So what I've had in the Byron in the past, I think I had a Byron on New Year's Eve when I was at the Byron Lounge in Chicago, in Schaumburg. The Byron had the same smooth and mellowness, but the complexity is far greater in this thing.
Yeah,
far deeper.
There was no. I was not intending to knock Byron there by any means.
No.
But it is you if you have over a decade of aging advantage on the raw material that they're using, there's no faking the resultant complexity. There's nothing that you can do to engineer that.
No. And I did just get now a little burst of cedary goodness. Since I'm at my midway point almost.
Right. You're right at the sort of the turn. There should be things happening.
I would not describe the body though as heavy.
I don't think so.
Less than medium.
Well, I would still say it's medium bodied, but leaning toward a lighter flavor.
Right. I agree with that.
So the quality of the body, how would you describe that? Good, very good, excellent, better than excellent?
I'm probably right where my first one was in the kind of very good plus range. I mean, I can't hate. There's nothing I can.
There's not an easy comparison to reach for.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know just because of what I'd like to smoke, if I would give it the excellent, which it probably clearly deserves for other people. You know.
Okay. How about for the flavor?
Flavor, I would probably give excellent. Even though it's milder, but the complexity and the flavors that are coming out, and just that really just intricate subtleties of flavor.
All right, so you are both reasonably into this experience. Can I make a suggestion? Because I think there's something different that could happen. In front of you is our equipment. I'll be happy to do this, right? Can you
Ice?
Yes. There's no use this one to dispense some ice for us, right?
I mean, for my first
Are you
third-
resistant to this idea?
No, but for my first third, I think the body is definitely excellent, and I think that the flavor I would say is better than excellent.
Thank you. Okay. There's a reason why this is fighting. I'm not quite sure I know what it is. The Zycar multi-tool, the greatest invention.
Just don't gouge your finger while you're doing it.
Right. No.
George is enjoying a Perdomo 10th anniversary Maduro with some Johnny Walker Double Black.
Oh, very nice.
It is a peaty Scotch. Ooh. What else are you guys smoking out there? Let us know.
What possessed you to buy a Johnny Walker in the first place? I meant that with no disrespect whatsoever, but you know, and not that Double Black doesn't have some interesting qualities, but you know, that's a little bit corporate. Ooh, did you hear that little
Pop there? Beautiful.
So what we're about to enjoy is I guess I should rather than do the old dirty dozen routine. Contents of this can are fit for human consumption, and the guy turns the.
Whoops. Uh-oh. That camera.
Did it quit? Are we out of battery?
I don't know why it lost its battery. What?
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
There
We'll
you
shut
go.
it.
There you go.
It's there. Back in
It
business.
shut
We're
off.
back
that's
in
all.
business.
This is Eagle Rare
The other
10.
way. The other way. There you go.
Eagle Rare 10. I'm sorry. I'm visually dyslexic.
That's all right.
Eagle Rare 10, and this is a great mash bill, lovely whiskey, 10 years old, and when you can buy it honestly from a vendor with integrity, it's absurdly affordable, even though they'll tell you that, you know, this is rarer than hen's teeth.
George says that the double black was on sale for $30.
Oh, sorry. Good
Value
score.
added. Value added, George. Way to go.
Exactly. You're a wise man.
I need to peel this off. I kind of want to frame my band now.
Yeah, I've done the same. I created a little like a shadow box for it. But I want to have what I want to have is an individual. You know, one of the small little petite. I want one for all four of the blends, and I'll put them together.
Oh, nice.
Once they're all, so I have all four bands in their. So I did this not because I wanted to sip, because obviously I'm not smoking yet, but I wanted you to taste what I think it might do.
Oh, okay.
Don't everybody talk at once. This broadcast is brought to you by your.
I talk. I mean,
Well, you're busy.
I guess.
You're busy, and this is a great moment.
All right, that's a pretty good.
I'd say that ash is
that's a pretty good pairing.
exactly.
I'm not getting rid of it until it falls on me, or
exactly.
it's
There's
ready-
no, there
it's-
is
it's ready.
literally no
It's
reason
holding on
to.
though. It hasn't.
I mean, it
even-
does not. It's not leaning. It's
No.
not tilting. There's no crack evident. It's that ash
I
is.
just can't breathe through it. I
right.
just have to keep smoking it.
Yes, you're a good student. You're paying attention. You're not losing the thread. I love it. And by the way, what I think is interesting is look at the rate of smoking.
Yeah.
He is actually smoking at your pace right now. Right? In other words, you are smoking a little bit slower than you normally do.
Very much.
Even though you were saying that it's a looser draw than you prefer, and you would think that it would burn faster and therefore hotter, but instead it's performing like a perfect, like
It's taking the boat down the lazy river. You're just
that's exactly.
Well, for me, I think part of the reason why I'm smoking it slower is also because
he's trying.
I'm really considering it.
Well, yeah, but
More so than
theoretically, every time we're here and we're lighting up something that is new, unique, or distinctive for evaluative purposes, you're also smoking different than you would if you were just sitting
Well,
there.
no, but this is beyond those other cigars.
Exactly.
This is,
Yeah, but I think
this is beyond.
I think that that he's so perplexed by picking out the flavors that he's now taking more time to evaluate and chew on, as we would say.
Mhm. Which is thrilling to me.
oh, it's thrilling to me.
Yeah.
I'm just quite quiet about it because I'm like, wow, it's really kind of different.
It's just so.
So Brian says, George,
Mhm.
yeah, George won. The JW Double Black at Costco is $36, so $30 is a great deal on your corporate choice.
Well, yeah. By the way, there's nothing wrong. It's the same thing as I would never criticize choosing a Jim Beam American whiskey product.
Mm.
But it's because they're, we don't like to think of it that way, but they're corporate owned. It's Beam Suntory. The Japanese are really
Yeah,
the.
but that Jim Beam white label for the price is just a
It's the
nice,
best thing on
It's a
earth.
nice drinking
There's
bottle,
no-
man.
Pound for pound, it is, and by the way, throughout their portfolio, I think in any liquor store anywhere you can walk in and find a Knob Creek product, and it is probably the single best value for taste, flavor, body, all the things that we would be thinking about comparing. Like, okay, let's make a whiskey tasting chart and go through. Knob Creek will win every single one. And by the way, Booker's, they're elevated. The thing that really sort of exploded the single barrel proof kind of world. Booker's regularly trounces whiskeys that sell for 4 or 5 times. Right? In other words, a Booker's whiskey is under $100.
Yeah.
If you're at an honest retailer. And it outscores whiskeys that are sold for $200, $300, $400. In other words, there's Bookers that yeah. I mean, look, and it's not.
Let me turn that
It's
back on
not.
a little bit.
Oh, you're saving the battery.
Well, it just shuts off when it runs out. So
Shuts
it's
off
trying
when-
to charge it, but
shuts
it's,
off when it wants to.
It's
mean-
a union camera.
I mean,
oh, hold on. Sorry.
the ash is
And Steven's with us, by the way.
All right.
multi-layered, tight,
Yeah.
just
Try to
fantastic.
I mean,
get
you
a little
can
bit more
literally
over
see.
here, Tony.
Yeah, over this.
Oh, a little bit back, a little bit. There you go. There you go. And try to come up a little bit. Yeah, there. Perfect.
Look
Perfect.
at that.
My arm
Look at
doesn't
that.
reach that
Yeah,
far.
exactly. No, we're good. I just think it's magic. And by the way, still no evidence whatsoever. But so my question is, sipping this, are you getting different notes, or is something else
Oh, yeah,
happening?
yeah, there was more complexity added to it.
And my my little bit of nut flavor has kind of turned into a toasted nuttiness that I still can't place the variety of the nut, but it's now got that kind of.
Well, sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
There you
George says that when I go to my local bar every Saturday for some old fashions,
Mhm.
I close the night with Eagle Rare Neat.
As you should, George. As you should.
go. Exactly. All right. So you guys are far enough into this and understanding what's going on.
Yes,
and
you're
you
allowed.
appreciate
Yes,
it.
please go
I'm
right
going
ahead.
to.
Burn it. Not that.
What's going on?
There you go.
And what's interesting about this cigar? They're a great project. I love these guys. I love this family. But they are, this is a big step for them because they never had Cameroon to work with.
Yeah.
They were never.
But they revived Corojo. That's their
That's exactly right.
that's their family's
That is
legacy
their-
in the business, right?
It will forever be their legacy. It isn't. That's no small thing. That's in a way what makes this remarkable.
It
had to happen.
Yeah, I know.
It had to happen.
Oh, I feel. Oh,
It did.
But I will let you know that
It's still intact.
There's
right?
one little dusting of ashes next to a 2-inch chunk.
Right.
oh, Steven says that it's nice weather here. A nice dry 103.
Does he have the Blade Runner skyline?
There's no haze in there's no haze where they are. It was east of that. It was the Great Lakes and south.
Where's the fire exactly?
Well, the fire's actually in more than one province in Canada.
Oh, really? Wow.
But it was in I think that it started in the easternmost edge of a western province. Like
Alberta.
It might have been Calgary. But anyway, the point is that it spread, it grew in size, in management, and the first way that the wind currents carried it was all the reason why we got it in the East Coast first, and then it shifted and it's now come down over Minneapolis, St. Paul, Milwaukee, and
Chicago, Wisconsin,
right.
Midwest stuff,
and then started to creep east.
correct.
And George One says it's a hazy day on the golf course today, needless to say.
Absolutely.
But at least you got to play golf on a Thursday, which is a symbol of summertime.
Exactly. You're set free from the constraints of your normal work week, and free to. But you should have had your breathing apparatus out there with you.
Did you have a cigar on the course?
Good question.
I'm sure he did.
It wasn't so bad this morning, was it? No. When I got here at 5:30 this morning, it wasn't so bad.
No, it happened. It happened sort of
10 o'clock.
as the day crept towards noon. We started to see more and more evidence,
Yep.
and it started to. And again, also because of the way our microclimate is working, it's sort of lingering.
Yeah.
It's not moving.
I know the one 2 weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, we couldn't see Jay the towers on TB Hill from my shop, which is
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, think about
which is not that far.
yeah. Think about how thick that means.
Yeah.
George says no cigar on the course, but had one at the happy hour afterwards.
Mhm.
Where was happy hour, George?
The 19th hole.
That's bad. Yeah.
He was playing congressional,
He was playing congressional.
probably. We're talking about George.
Isn't he high toned?
Well, he is George Shem. It's not
Oh yeah,
Costanza.
right. Exactly. Costanza. That was ungenerous of you.
Oh, he was at the still today.
Yeah.
Oh. You
Pine
can
Ridge-
still smoke outside the
Pine
still.
Ridge
Huh?
and Still.
That seems like a long way to go for golf, right? Because does he live down in Laurel?
Over Ellicott City.
Oh, Ellicott City.
Yeah, but
Ellicott
guess
City,
what?
Columbia.
Who cares how far it is if you get the smoke afterwards when you're done? You play your round of golf. You got your exercise in, some enjoyment. Regardless of whether or not the air is hazardous. You got a good round in, and then you get to smoke a cigar.
With some happy hour libations and
Right.
And
This is that's all the highlights of a good day, right?
It is a good day. Do. And Brian says that he's clearing his palate for an intemperance revenge.
Speaking of blunt instruments, that's a powerhouse cigar.
That's a powerhouse cigar.
You would not have to be searching for
No.
vocabulary tasting notes.
They pretty much kick your teeth in to tell you what they are.
So we're smoking now.
You haven't had the Volstead, have you? That new release?
No.
No.
I presume I will see some at the upcoming PCA. Next
Oh,
week.
that's next week already?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Are you going?
Nice.
This is the first time in a while for you, right?
Yes, it is.
What made you decide to go this time?
Um,
An open weekend?
a desire to see a lot of people and a lot of friends that I have not for a long time, and my ability to, help in my capacity, helping out, consulting for Capital Cigar.
Are you going with Capital?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks to the generosity of Capital Cigar.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, exactly. Fancy. That's like this is extremely expensive embroidery.
I was just saying,
It is gold.
Yeah, it's, was it the old how the question of the Mad Magazine comic?
Mike, how are you? Good.
How did you train
Welcome.
Cheetah to do that? Oh, a little patience, a little time, a lot of beatings. It's like yes. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to being out there, and there were a number of people that I wanted to see that I reached out to. So, and by the way, it's also the place where the industry at large is going to get their look at the Fuente book for the first time.
Yeah.
No one is really in the industry. No one has really seen that.
Oh, the one that he made. The book? He wrote a book? Is that right?
I was a contributing author to the book about Fuente, Arturo Fuente, since 1912. It's a massive coffee table.
Oh, I didn't know that that's correct.
It has been released in the United States. It's available, published by Assaline, and there are in the Assaline boutiques, but a few retailers around the country are now getting their copies.
Oh.
But the trade in general will not have seen, which is it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. I would have happily brought one here, except they weigh 100 pounds. And I
They
don't
cost
have
100
So,
no,
George,
they weigh 100 pounds.
But
They
they
cost
cost
$1,200.
$1,200.
Yes,
it's
it's the most.
to go along with that Opus Weekender bag that you can probably pay $25.
It comes with Opus?
No, I'm just that bag is spectacular looking.
What bag?
The Manny Iriarte,
Yeah.
the Opus X Society bag, which is beautiful. It's gorgeous leather.
Yeah.
You should see it.
Oh,
You actually should smell it. That's the.
Do you have a bag too?
Do I have a
You
bag?
have one of the bags?
Not that one. Not the one that he's talking about. By the way, the book comes with its own tote bag, but you still have to be willing to carry
100
75.
pounds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's massive. It's huge. It's the most beautiful thing.
$1,200.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, George. So I have a question for
It
you.
better have the best quality printing in the world.
Oh, you cannot believe how beautiful it is.
Last week, Jay smoked the La Polina 125th anniversary made by Oliva.
Oh man, I was ill. I was ill after that cigar.
Not
Meaning-
gonna warn you.
Meaning it overpowered you?
Yeah, because part of it's because I hadn't eaten most of the day, and that was like I ate like probably around 4 o'clock, and then I didn't eat it.
So
until
you're saying that the cigar kicked your ass.
Oh, the cigar kicked me hard.
right.
kicked
So
me
that's
hard.
maybe about power. Because by the way, let me
But
ask
it
you
was
a
also
question.
because I hadn't eaten.
Have you had with that, it's a poor carpenter who blames his tools.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I hadn't eaten. And,
So my question for you was, have you had it, and what were your thoughts on it? Because he liked it while he was smoking it.
I did like it.
It just must have kicked him in the back of the head.
And that's part of the reason why I stopped when I did. I was like, I gotta stop because I gotta go home. And
Oh, wait a minute. Where
And
were
just-
you when you were smoking? It wasn't, you didn't do it.
Yeah. But I had to go home because I was. I mean, I was.
So you crawled into your bed.
No, I got home and I ate and I was fine.
Well,
I ate some food and I was like, okay, I feel much better.
all right.
It's
So
like I was
now
on the verge of puking. by
let
the
me
time I got
ask.
home.
Let me ask a question now. Set aside
Mhm.
the 125. By the way, there's a successor to that coming out. But have we in this, and forgive me for not knowing this, but have you ever done a La Polina Goldie on the show?
No.
Okay. Well, guess what?
I'm gonna do one.
We Three Musketeers are going to have, and hopefully what I'll be able to do is the new generation, the newest La Polina Goldie iteration. And we will, Sammy, I'm counting on you. You're going to make this happen for me. But I because that is another cigar which is pedigreed, and they are committed to a standard and a trying to achieve something very rarefied.
Mm-hmm.
The La Polina Goldie is a cigar. It's made in Titan de Bronze by one roller. Actually, now I think there's two. Since Maria died, there are two people that she trained to take her place. But essentially,
Obviously,
two
it takes
rollers
two
make.
of them to make up for her loss, for
Yeah,
losing
right.
her. Yeah, right.
Trust me. And
She was the owner.
No. Maria was the
Aurora?
She was the only person who made Goldies until she passed. Maria was one of the honest people who could actually say, I was a long-time employee of Laguito, the factory where Cohibas are made.
Yeah.
And she was the godmother of the Cohiba Lancero. That's what she could roll that shape in her sleep. She could roll the Corona Especial, which is the short Lancero, and the Lancero.
Yeah, I mean, if
She was an artist of the highest order. Those are the original, let's say, the iterations of La Polina Goldie, which was a Lancero. In the era when Maria was making, and she would basically, there were only 10,000. She rolled every single one of them. That was her yearly output. That's what she could do. And when they got that number and had rested and aged them, they put them out, and that was that. There was this is what Maria's output was last year. These are the number of boxes that are available.
that's all you get.
They are magic. But by the way, I don't want to talk any more about them until we have cigars to smoke coming up. So we could do that. We could think about that for August.
Well,
Is there
somebody
any-
suggested we need again about the time of the 100th episode, so Augusty, another party.
Yeah, we need a summer swing.
Yeah, like a barbecue thing.
We're only at episode 149 now.
No, well, we're not talking about it has to be.
It doesn't have to be
We're
commemorating
talking
a
about kind
specific
of an
episodic
anniversary
number.
party for the 100th episode party.
Okay.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to actually be a milestone episode.
We're ringing that bell again.
Right.
The same. It's summertime.
We had fun. We want to do it again.
Exactly. And did we not have fun that day?
Okay.
Did you not have fun that day?
Consensus
By the
was-
way, it was great for you because you just sat there. Everybody was working all around you.
Great. It was fantastic.
We had Matt to do coffee, right? We had the Vespuccino here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I to be honest, I think that day. So well, let's actually in the comments section. Why don't you guys vote on whether or not you would like to come and participate at another Sprostery Fest? Right,
Sprofest 2023.
right, exactly. With well, I promise significantly better outcome than Firefest 2020, whatever that was.
Yeah. And how about the and I
George
know-
Shem is down for that.
And I know it's supposedly only a European release, or if you were smart enough to buy the Oliva Melanio 6 cigar sampler, the Lanceros, in
They're magic.
Yeah.
They are absolutely jewels.
Yeah.
Did
But-
you say the Oliva? So we
The
said,
Oliva Melanio. The Oliva Melanio, the V Melanio is now essentially has become its own brand the same way Bahique is now a brand, even though it was originally Cohiba Bahique, right? The Melanio V series, look, in my opinion, and I hope you agree, I think that is a brand that steadily flies under the radar in terms of its. It punches above its weight all the time.
Yep.
They are spectacular cigars. They are 1,000% reliable. You don't get failures.
and it's we toned down the V strength and
Yes.
increased the complexity,
Mhm.
and just have this happy time of
The Melanio and the Melanio Maduro,
Yeah.
in their own way, they're like shadow cousins of Padron
Anniversary.
1926.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between anniversary
Between a
and
64 and
1926.
26.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Engel is on his way with some crab balls.
Oh, Jay, we love you.
Oh, lovely.
Now,
By the way, how do you get crab balls? Do you hold the thing down and
Yeah,
pull
and
them
cut 'em
off?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you know?
absolutely.
It's like
Absolutely.
and the only reason I was bringing up Oliva and all these weird things is because so they are also releasing Uber Premium at the show. So they are releasing a V Preferido in the round, double tapered.
yeah, the shape is a true beautiful
brand.
figurado.
Exactly. And then they are making a similar shape in this one-off, uber expensive thing. And then grasping at actually because I don't remember all of the specifics about it.
Uh-huh.
Other than, and I think it's going to be 100. That might even be more.
It's going to be a real premium.
Yeah, and they were one of my good customers.
Very, very small.
Super
very
small
amount.
So they were banging on him, my
Right.
rep. Well, he's a customer of mine who's a rep in Pennsylvania, about why they were doing this. They were just jumping on the bandwagon, and he said, "I'm not even really concerned about it because it's $300 boxes. 100 of them are earmarked
For the U.S.
for the UK or for Europe, and 200 for the US." So he's like, it's not even. He's like, it is solely a collector's.
They'll evaporate.
Yeah.
They'll be to be honest, almost all of those boxes will be sold before they actually reach the shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and by the way, let's put it this way: the people that bought the Oliva operation in Europe come by everything, all of their approach to the tobacco industry, 100% legitimately, and they are of the highest integrity. All they did was empower Oliva to expand their reach a little bit. And Oliva, again, like I said, they're a little bit undersung, they're modest in their approach to that is a brand that, if you track the Cigar Aficionado Top 25, for instance, from the earliest days to now, aside from Padron and Fuente, no other brand has been in the top 25
consistently
more than Oliva,
right.
And they are the Oliva consistently places in the top 10 of the top 25, and no one else does it, and they don't they don't have the same rabid fan base,
right?
And that is not to take anything away from the magic that is Fuente and the commitment to family legacy and consistency that is Padron. Yeah. Both of them, those are the Fuente and Padron are the twin pillars of the cigar industry. Value, legacy, everything noble about what we love about the cigar industry is encapsulated in those two families.
Absolutely.
But there is no reason not to think that the Oliva operation doesn't belong in that same conversation, and also justifiably the Iroas. Yeah. What Justo is doing, and again, especially with Aladino as a modern day expression, is absolutely magic. And they are, and then if you want to really round it out to be, globally, what the Turrent family does in Mexico with the Turrent family operation in their blends, they are also ridiculously, overachievers and woefully underappreciated in that respect. And soliloquy. Can I bother you for a little more ice?
Sure.
Thank you. The Peanut Gallery have anything exciting to say about you getting to the end of your story there?
Me? O'Brien is asking, where does Ashton fall?
No. Thank you.
When mentioning Fuente and Padron?
Well, Ashton, the entire Ashton portfolio is essentially Fuente artistry, as addressed by Robbie, by the Holtz operation, the Robbie and Satya, and they're superb. And by the way, also incredible commitment and quality, but they're to my way of thinking, Ashton gets a lot of love. I mean, that's a brand that is a pillar in most walk-in humidors. In other words, especially let's say east of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
What cigar store that you know of that you walk in doesn't have Ashton? And the strength, the remarkable thing about the portfolio that Robbie and his family have built is that they added My Father labels like San Cristobal and La Roma de Cuba, and so you have these incredible pillars. You know, in other words, you have all of the things that are everything great about a Dominican cigar, and these stellar Nicaraguan cigars that are all, you know, in other words, the beauty of the Ashton portfolio from My Father is that each one of them has a distinct personality and a flavor.
Over My Father product.
And they're distinct from My Father.
Absolutely.
They clearly show their family tree, but they owe nothing. They are not rebrands of something that already exists. They are original in the portfolio. So they deserve the highest respect. And by the way, they're also, both aspects of that are consistently good values. They deliver, you know, these are not, they're never the least expensive thing in the humidor, but they are certainly amongst the most, they're never at the highest, and they are reliable.
Because even a VSG that is what, $15 to $20 in Maryland because of our extraneous taxes is not a overly indulgent.
Somebody has to pay for the governor's driver.
Yeah, right.
Um,
And his police staff and
yeah, exactly.
George says that Oliva is incredibly overlooked by some cigar smokers. They continue to do what works similar to Padron and Fuente. I heard their new factory is awesome. Love to tour that someday.
Well, I'll tell you what you should do. You should create a window that works for you. And how about if we say, here's X dates, and we find out if the Ono Live crew can join, and we will organize a factory tour.
Where is it? Dominican?
No. The
Nicaragua.
Oliva operations in Nicaragua.
Oh, man, how are the flights to Nicaragua now?
Are you talking about price or availability?
Availability.
Well, presumably we're going to do this tour next year. So theoretically, some political issues should have shaken out by then.
It's expensive still.
I'm at that point. Yes.
Move it. Can you turn this on?
My last puff.
Quick, turn on the TikTok camera.
My last puff took me in the realm of burning my
Yeah.
lips.
Exactly.
Uh-oh. There we go. Oh, we gotta hold up more this way. Yeah. Oh, you're already there.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way,
We're still at the same rate because yours was
Speed Racer. Yeah, he was
you were about
almost
an inch
twice
and a
as
half
long.
long. Yeah,
Right.
inch and a half
So
longer.
I'm curious. In your cigar,
Uh-huh.
did the flavor and complexity was it compounding?
Yes.
Like
So I would give my flavor in the last third a excellent plus.
like my flavor has been, the complexity and the flavor has been compounding,
Yes.
getting deeper, getting strong. The body is getting stronger.
Yes.
Just evolution.
The cigar was eating its Cheerios as it went
Like
along.
wow.
The breakfast of champions.
Evolving.
Yes. I love that. Look, what a I feel like we should say a few words in nomine patri.
Spiritu Sancti.
Brian says, I keep buying Don Carlos, but it's not sparking my interest. I smoked a 2004 Don Carlos and loved every puff, but I just don't get that from the last 3 or 4 crops. Any thoughts?
Keep trying.
You should never be wrong, but I would suggest for the time being that you instead buy Casa Cuba and look for the shape Divine Inspiration, which is essentially a Lonsdale that's been on a little bit of a diet. but a spectacular cigar. One of the greatest things you can buy. And Casa Cuba is another thing that is essentially criminally overlooked in many humidors.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, and I would say the same thing about talking about Ashton, the Ashton symmetry.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Underappreciated, but the difference is that Ashton symmetry, is not unlike Ashton Classic and a couple other things that are there. Ashton symmetry is they're not afraid to charge for that for what it is.
Yeah,
it's not a no bargain hunter is picking.
No,
but
given,
they're distinctive blend.
But given no-name people charging more money for things that aren't nearly as successful, I mean,
that are pretenders to the throne.
exactly. I mean, there's no, I don't think there's a comparison.
Sorry, we're not trying to denigrate any up and comers or strivers.
We didn't name names.
But it is hard to find fault with any Don Carlos blend, regardless of what name it trades under. As far as talking about recent iterations of Don Carlos in the marketplace, the only thing that I would suggest is that you take a look at the retailers that you're buying them from and ask yourself what they're doing in terms of the inventory and how long they've been there, and maybe rest them in your humidor a little bit longer, because the purpose to Don Carlos is balance and elegance and refinement. And
if you put them in the Manning, you'll get that cedar deliciousness, and it'll be perfect.
Exactly. They will express their best nature.
Yes. They'll be in their party dress.
Yes.
And George says that I'd say the same about the Mia Moore from Ashton. Very overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. The Mia Moore was a darling for a little while, but yes, I agree. So because the Mia Moore is a sub-brand of, it's a brand extension of La Romana Cuba. It's not named Mia Moore. It's La Romana Cuba Mia Moore.
But I think part of the issue with that one is you came out with the Mia Moore, and then you came out with a Mia Moore Reserva.
Right.
That just to produce something new that year.
And then also the Mia Moore Maduro, right? Right? Didn't they do a? They did.
Both of those are.
They did another wrapper though.
Yeah. So so you had the original Aroma de Cuba San Andres red label. Then you had the Edition Especial, which has gotten a reblend.
Still, that's the prize winner.
Correct. And then you got the Mia Moore Blue label.
There's Jay.
Which was Maduro. And then
Jay.
Welcoming to the stage.
Very good.
You got the Passione.
Thank you. I brought you
Yes,
all a little
Which I think, which
is again another cigar that is
woefully overlooked.
kind of flying under the
What's
radar.
that?
You like to eat and smoke?
Normally I would, but let me finish this first before but these guys will have some.
We will certainly because I don't have to worry about that, and Tony has.
I do not
reached
anymore.
the-
I'm going to go visit.
Yeah,
Drake.
okay.
Or in this case, indoor plumbing. Since
Would you hand that off to Chef?
Absolutely.
We need to show this.
Yeah, let's show off straight from the kitchen of.
Beauty.
Mr. George.
Man, hold that for
I
a
don't
minute.
know.
From the
So tell us about
the,
these.
the kitchen of
As small
salsa
as I
grill.
can make them. Crab balls as small as I can make, and just a little bite bowl. They should be really good. So I don't know.
I'm sure they will be. I'm no doubt about that.
Can I?
I have a bra, right?
I'm going to do one au naturel, and then we'll do
Thank
the
you. So we have mustard or cocktail, and a real Baltimorean uses mustard.
or as we say down south, Baltimoreans.
Could be.
Should put that here or should I-
No, here.
There you go. I'm gonna take a look at these bad boys.
Oh my! Oh, peaches, nectarine. Oh, apricot all the time.
Spectacular. Right.
Oh
Really,
my
really
gosh!
good. They're they picked Wednesday morning, and they picked three different, or at least I went into the cooler and there were three different types
Uh-huh.
and went through them, and these things were really nice.
Oh my gosh!
Not too sweet, but nice and apricot.
Mm.
Perfect. Tastes like our crab cake stores or what? Tastes like
which is
white.
the best crab cake.
That's good. They should be whitey tasty.
And for any of you that are not from here, whenever you come around to hang out with us and smoke a cigar and do this, you must go to Salsa Grill on Security Boulevard and have a crab cake because it's the best crab cake you can buy in the DMV. By far.
Crab balls.
These are wonderful. Now,
We want to know how you harvest the crab balls. That was the question earlier.
with tweezers, you hold the crab down and you tell them, "Look, sorry about this."
Sorry, we hate to do this to you, but
You powered through that already.
They're
cigars?
small.
They're
They're
whole
just
nother
single
layer?
bite- They're just bites. No, I didn't bring you too many. So.
You're trying to make me look bad.
bad.
This is my third, but I'm going cocktail sauce.
That's because you're from Virginia.
is a cocktail sauce the way to go?
I always say Baltimoreans always choose mustard.
Mustard crackers.
I
Mustard
never,
and
I
crackers.
never was a mustard.
Well, the
guy.
crackers are there. I like that.
Mustard
We've got
cracker,
them.
That's classic. So
Well,
can
you have
do
to
that
mash them
however you
down.
want.
You have to mash them down and put a little lemon on it
No.
first before you.
Everybody's got their own technique. So
You don't agree with that,
I agree with crackers and mustard.
Mhm.
And
But not the
that's
lemon.
basically Perfect.
not the lemon.
Oh, wait a
Maybe
minute.
some lemon. If you want some lemon, you can put lemon on it. We'll serve.
Wait a minute, wait a
definitely am not agreeing.
Everybody's
So this is
different.
this is interesting because this is this is one of those food service saltines, right? We're not
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about
Sorry about that.
we're not talking about a
No.
Keebler.
Nope. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
That's just
We like that.
classic.
Involved one's always an issue. The humidity, right? Like right now,
Oh
not
yeah.
great for your crackers.
But you know what this makes it taste like? It's Memorial Stadium. We're watching the Colts before they.
Left. In the dark.
These
Before
should
they ran
taste
away.
Maryland, classic Maryland crab
Mhm.
cakes. They should taste like Bailey's
Mhm.
in Lexington Market.
Mhm.
They have the classic flavor, and that's what these.
Do you mind
are.
if I share this with the
Of
peanut
course
gallery?
we will.
Wait.
Oh, I know you want it, but I'm not giving it
Should be
away.
enough for y'all. It's a couple of these will.
I really want to
I'm
start
gonna
going
try one.
faster with my cigars.
Don't go faster, Jay. Let it.
Yeah, just let it come
do
to
its
you.
thing.
We promise we'll save you one.
Where are the crab stores? Where are they from?
Don't know. Didn't look.
They're good.
I thought I was gonna go and walk in and look where the crab meat came from, but it's good. It tastes good. Tastes mighty
It does.
Oh,
good. Yeah, so the crab meat's been really nice. The last 2 months, crab meat's been tasting great. A year ago, not so much. It
Yeah.
wasn't a guarantee. You don't know.
But is it local crab yet
It
or
was a
not?
crab shoot.
Not yet.
So
Local crabs come what, September?
Yeah, a little later in the season. I mean, I did see some today from the chop tank. And yeah, I don't know. It was $50.
Oh.
So
we went Sunday and we got a little over 3 dozen
nice.
crab and they were out of this world. I'm eating them plain, and I tell you,
This plain is fine. Yeah,
Oh,
you don't need to do
fantastic.
anything to it.
I love the cakes.
Should be fine.
Great mixture.
You know, so crab cakes have some breading. You can have, if you want straight crab imperial, yes, and it's delicious, and that's straight crab. But our crab cakes have some bread to hold them together, and that's part of the thing. It's a little cakey, so we could put much less bread in it, but this is good. They work about what we like, and they're
just
really
let it be
good.
known that our
Crab
friend
balls.
Jay is really a refined guy.
Yeah.
He actually brought
Right.
toothpicks so that we could use this, but we savages here, who all know and love each other.
You're Neanderthals, though. I mean,
So that's
I like that you're smoking that down. That's nice. You're
I'm
not, you're not
actually-
willing to throw that thing out, are you?
I'm also under high alert for the rapidity at
Keep
which
your eyes
the
open.
crab balls are going away.
pay no attention to that food behind the curtain. Done.
one more.
This cigar has been a
Leave
palace.
bunch for Jay.
So
I see you treasuring it.
Man,
I
this
see
is-
you. Happy to see that. And I don't see everybody. I normally smoke them down to the butt pretty good if I can, and not everybody does. But you're definitely enjoying it if you
This one definitely is worth it.
Go all the way.
Can you hold these hostage for Jay so that they're not in front of us?
Mike's gonna be pounding on it too, right there.
Well, that's all right. He's allowed.
Switch over to an apricot. You want to try something? I think you can smoke and eat apricots.
Not yet. Although it's interesting because we often get stone fruit notes in a cigar.
Yeah, you could. Let me taste these. These are probably some of the best I've had. I follow the apricots every year at a couple of orchards. Toygo's Orchard, and they have very interesting this year. Pretty good year, although Tuesday night the wind came through and knocked a lot of apricots off the tree.
Down to the
And they picked them Wednesday morning, and I went out there, and they're like, my buddy's like, see them all around,
on the ground.
Tree. Yeah, and it happened Tuesday night. The orchard, so Toygo's really good. All of the early stone fruits, and so there's some peaches out, and all the cherries, and they're doing strawberries and all kinds of stuff. Everything's right, everything's beautiful right now. So they got their crews out there working super hard, picking everything, and their cooler's jam packed. So they got I don't know, more
Thank
stuff
God.
coming. So it's been a good year so far.
Do you do anything like an apricot, like a cobbler or something?
Maybe
You do something in
cobbler
that?
tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be sour cherry apricot cobbler.
Oh.
That's that's every year. I
Oh,
make
wow.
that.
Sour cherry
Yeah.
apricot.
They were both picked Wednesday morning. I had to go to the field to get the cherries. Never made it to the cooler.
Yeah.
When I was pulling onto the farm, I saw them taking a trailer up towards the warehouse, and
And you
the
said, "Give me-"
apricots made it. No, they made it in there, and it took me an hour or two. When I was finally done, I went and got my apricots and went through. And they had, I don't know, the 3 different types. I mean, they had probably 50 bushels or something like that. And I went through them all, and I picked these, and these were definitely different. And actually, on my way out, they were like, "Yeah, you picked the right.
You picked the
ones."
right ones.
Yeah. Jeez.
I'm not putting that down now.
You can keep going.
No, I mean, it's burning my fingers
You're gonna
already.
get burned.
He's where I was.
All right, I gotta go use the restroom. I'll be back in a moment.
This one mine and this one is Jay's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny.
Because you'll eat them now.
Well, yeah, exactly. We'll make him, we'll put him on his chair and he'll have to address that when he comes back because he's finished with his,
Crustaceans in the room. Address the crustaceans in the room.
he'll crush the crustaceans.
My wife is still talking about the Rubens.
So did I bring you all any bread last time up here?
Uh-uh.
I don't know. No,
Bacon.
I tried. Yeah, it's I actually love it. I got a half a loaf. I didn't know if I wanted to bring it in or not. Y'all want to taste a little bit of it?
I love it, but I'm not eating bread right now. I'm trying my
My
best
bread.
to. Yeah. Oh, I love your bread. I love your bread.
My bread's not like regular bread. It's, I don't know. It's way healthier for you. You can tell. You can see how.
Well, yeah, the grain and everything else. I mean, no, I'm not. I'm just saying I'm not. That's there for a reason.
Thank you. That's very
It's there
kind.
for a
Very
reason.
kind. Very
For
kind.
you to put it back in front of me, like so it all goes away.
All right, let's.
You want to summarize? You want to summarize your feelings?
Oh my gosh.
After all, it's only 5 of 11.
Well, that close.
Exactly. Well, that's right. Twice a day.
Somewhere.
By the way, Jay, hand delivered by Chef Jay, crab balls is about as rarefied as a Meerapfel cigar.
Yeah.
They're
It
equally.
doesn't get any
It
better.
doesn't happen. There's not. These are not. These are not within reach of the average human.
I put a little thought into this.
Yeah. I'm so impressed, and so appreciative too. By the way.
No problem. Happy to do it. I have you all having fun here. I'd like to help you out. That's for sure.
Oops.
Will it? Oh, I thought you had already lit it a little bit. I was like, are we
No, no.
standing on ash?
No. It ain't. It's not that good.
The judges are voting right now. They're having a conference behind. Meantime, we asked the chefs to leave the room. on this with this week's edition of Top Chef, who will be asked to go home?
Not yet.
Not Jay, right?
I mean, I have to say this. Just before I told it, I was thinking this has got to be the highest scoring of all the cigars ever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
And what I'm interested in is I would like us to. We will revisit Meerapfel with another blend later in the year.
oh, fantastic. All right. So this is what I've come up with, right? So we started out with the fragrance cold draw 875. So just under excellent.
Yeah.
Flavor for the first third, 925 for the flavor, 9 for the body. So excellent plus and excellent. Flavor for the second third increased to 9.5. Body increased to 9.25. And then for the third, it still increased. It kept on compounding, and just like complexity and body was increasing and intensity, 9.75 and 9.5. Burn and dry would say 9.5. Consistency 9.5, and then overall 9.5 for 93.5.
93.5. So
93.
it certainly, if you place it in the hierarchy of cigars rated here on Ono Live,
It's definitely the highest. It's got to be the highest. I will be very surprised if it's not. All right, here is our 93.5. Yep, number one.
and what was number 2?
The Tatuaje Loma de Cerdo.
Okay, so we're not telling Tatuaje Lomas de Cerdo to package cigar cutters and go home.
No. No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
That's as glorious a. And by the way, I bet there's a very, very narrow gap between those two.
No, 89. So 4.5 points.
Oh, wow! It's. I think you were harsh on the Loma de Cerdo. I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't here to affect the average.
I'm going to use one of these apricots as a palate cleanser.
Use a crab ball instead.
No, he's using the apricot as a palate cleanser before he gets to the crab.
That's right. You got it. You got it. You got it. Oh,
I was watching some podcast yesterday, and they were saying, some girl, and I don't know, this isn't true. So the apricots that fell on the ground, no, you can't pick those up and use them. So, but the lady's saying, oh, there's some restaurants that only use fruit that
Fallen
has
fruit that's been.
that has a bird, has one bird
Peck in
on
it,
because
yeah.
that is that one might have a little
It's
peck
the-
on it
it's the
right there.
approval
It had
of,
a little bit of a bruise.
I've probably
so-
eaten over the bird.
Yeah, yeah,
Approval
no.
of nature.
That one had a little bit of a bruise, just a tiny little thing.
I like
But,
bruised fruit.
Oh God, that's great.
They're pretty tasty. Apricot is sweet enough, but
Oh, that's perfect. That's easily the best apricot I've ever had.
I'm thinking about trying some. I didn't get to it this week, but maybe next week I'll try to get another case and see if I can try some out. It said 24 hours, and I didn't have 24 hours. So
Well, but also, I mean, the question is what you have left after you make cobblers.
yeah, I
And I love
got a big
the
bushel.
sour cherries. That's insane.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you need
So are you going Baltimore on, or are you going
Well, first, I'm going to try a little bit just
neutral?
clean.
Neutral. Yes.
Clean is good.
Oh. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
crab balls. Any party you have in Maryland, as far as I'm concerned, you're supposed to have these.
Yeah.
And not many people can afford them.
Right.
All I can tell you is,
Well, not many people know where to get one that's good enough to eat
but they,
because most of them are they're bread heavy. So,
That's a
all right, mustard incoming.
Oh.
And now cocktail.
so we took some down to the Bengals one time.
And they went crazy.
So we went into the Bengals. It was their break.
Poor
room
bastards in
the night,
Cincinnati.
night before the game.
Yeah.
And I took in a pan of crab balls, and I took in crab soup. And I had, I took a dozen cups of crab soup in. So we're sitting there, and our buddies, and all of a sudden, Travis is like, Jay.
Is that enough?
Thank you.
While you're at it, just hit me with it.
And so he was
He's
saying,
in there. He
One
says,
modest.
somebody walks in. He says, Paul, come here. You want to try this? So he brings him over. He says, Jay, this is Paul. This is Paul Brown Jr. This is the owner. Paul Brown comes walking in. So he walks in and he looks at him. He looks at the crab balls. He grabs the crab soup. He looks at one, looks at the other,
And put them
and
together.
dips the crab ball in the crab soup and shoves it down. That's unbelievable. That is a professional eater who can figure that out. And he didn't
Split
give a
second.
sample of one. It was just like, oh, is this what you're supposed to do?
Of course, I'm dipping this in my crab soup.
It's unbelievable. So that's
Also, the cheapest owner in the entire NFL. But
but
nonetheless,
tell you what.
guess
he
where the
knew how to
Bengals
eat.
have been? Yeah.
He knows how to.
Mm-hmm.
Brian says that we should have lunch at Salsa Grill
We
and
smoke
then have cigars later.
Yeah, we do that all the time. Cigars, George has smoked a few cigars at Salsa Grill.
I have indeed.
We got a couple nice little spots.
I've never not enjoyed myself in salt.
This food is equal to the Meerapfel.
To the Meerapfel, exactly.
Oh, God.
It was very tasty.
Yeah, I did 100 crab balls for a customer on Sunday. And I actually wasn't there. I overslept. And my cook calls me and she's like, what about this? And I'm like, oh. She said, I already made them. And he showed up tonight. He came in the night and they were just like, oh, people loved them.
They loved them.
Yeah.
That was a huge hit at the party,
Yeah,
right?
he said they worked
Can
out
you
great.
blame them?
Please.
Can you blame them?
Do you want the cocktail sauce?
So we can make them larger. His were probably a little larger than these. But I actually personally,
I like the small, the bite size.
real tiny ones are almost the best. They're like better than bigger ones.
Oh, yeah.
So
I never would have thought that, but definitely.
for crab balls,
I've actually never really had crab balls. Like,
yeah,
mostly cakes.
yeah.
And this is deep fried? Oh, thank God.
I mean,
Oh,
classic,
thank God.
classic ball.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Right amount of Old Bay.
My girls do a good
Okay.
job. The crab meat's good, and I got a good. crew
Mike, do you
that
want
can
one
make
more?
some crab balls.
Yes, you do. Of course.
Mike, have one more.
Come on. Don't be ridiculous. The amazing thing is, Chef Jay has discipline. He doesn't eat all of them while they're cooking them.
I don't know how.
Right.
Because I'd be like,
Ready
5
for-
for the cakes,
you got 2
3 for
more.
me.
Yeah, you have to have some restraint doing those type of things. And sometimes they're counted, like 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Mhm.
People can walk by and be like, oh, no
Yeah,
problem.
exactly right. Let me hit
Yeah,
that.
so-
No.
But you always do extras.
That's
You
you.
got to do extras.
That's you.
No, you go ahead. You sure? Because here's what I'm gonna do.
From Baltimore again?
Except I'm going Wasp cocktail sauce.
Of course.
The mustard really is. I think.
That's what we use in it.
One.
You use it in there.
The
so it
mustard tells the
complements
story.
it. And,
Yeah.
and for me, that's the classic way. That's the way
Now,
I eat
now
my
Jay, is it
crab
classic yellow or is it something you make?
cake. No, just classic yellow.
Yeah.
So we actually we have a thing that we do for parties. We do a giant crab cake. And it weighs over a pound. And it'll cover up the bottom of a big platter. And I just like
Can you
to
just
put
put that in the
a cup
chair?
of mustard, a cup of cocktail, some crackers, and give them a little cocktail fork.
Fork.
This giant
And they
crab
just
cake.
spoon
And
out.
so they can just take it
And they
just
make
put it on the
themselves.
crackers and make
Mhm.
it really works great. And it's hard to give. So these crab balls, if you do them for a party, you need 7 per person. So, something like that. It's a fortune. So
Right.
you're paying $35, $40. Just, $30 to get crab balls for a person. That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's so it's like the only appetizer that I know that can be chicken wings, 1, meatballs, 1, shrimp, 2.5 or something like that. Crab balls, 7. And it can even be more.
Because people aren't going to stop
No,
themselves.
they could just, they're
They're not
slamming
going to
them
stop
down.
themselves.
Oh, there's more crab balls? Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, you
Thank you. I'll have another.
never put out the last crab ball. That's another trick. Never put the last
I
one
never
out.
put the last tray out because there's always people that are going to come around and go, hey, excuse me, are there any of those left?
You got it. I've rationed crab balls. I mean, you know, you want to hedge them up where everybody can have whatever they want, but it's.
I
it's
don't
a little
want,
bit
I
of
want
an
to, I have something else I can give to Jay.
You sure?
Yeah.
So what is this now?
So keeping in the Cameroon,
Cameroon.
in the Cameroon vein, this is something to be named later, actually.
Oh, to be named later. All right. Great.
Turn on the TikTok. No, but the three of us are now, we're all going to be on the same agenda.
Yes.
And this is happening for those of you in the On Live crew who'd like to stay up.
It's the overtime cigar. I can tell you right off the bat, Jay, it is not going to have the aged tobacco goodness that the other one does.
That's all right. Oh, but to your point earlier, I could do another Meerapfel again.
You could. It's one of the few cigars that you can immediately go back to back.
Yes,
You're
I'll
just
know.
in love it and with no fear either. It's not like you're going to overwhelm your palate.
George says, "Oh my, an extended episode. I'm lighting up a Neanderthal."
God bless the Neanderthal.
What does the Neanderthal have to say about being set on fire?
Don't do it.
Did Neanderthals have fire back in their time?
Yeah. I think that wasn't that a one of the things that marked them. They weren't.
You can pick for Jay.
I think you would like this Aganorsa.
Okay.
This is that's might be toothpicky for Jay, but he's like he's can go for Gary.
Thank
That
you.
is a
I've been lacking of decent cigars for a little while.
Oh no.
I might have solved that problem for you.
Maybe. Well, right now I'm not. Thanks.
Here's one more, Jay. It's a little shorty, so you can use this as a breakout back.
Nice. Okay, I could show up anytime.
Dude, we love it when you come to
Mhm.
visit us here, and not only because you come to feed us. We love your company and your input and everything else. The Three Musketeers, we salute
We
you.
salute you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We who are about to
I've
try
watched it
salute
the last
you.
couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
I've checked it out a couple times.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, where were you?
He
What
was-
did you do?
I was in Malaysia one of the episodes, and in
In Manila.
Cebu in the next one.
Cool.
And then the other 2 weeks, I just couldn't get it together to find a location or.
I heard it was a problem.
No, I haven't been.
It was surprisingly a problem.
Okay. Doggone
I
it.
was like, oh.
You know, I've never had that problem. I just smoke. And I don't know. People do look at me. So in
It
Vietnam,
does follow
one
them with
night,
the family
walking down the road,
of the
just
rest
killing
of their
time,
stuff. So you as
talking
you get
with
into
people,
it, you
so I'm smoking the cigar.
should pick
walking
out
down.
what it is.
I stop and I'm talking to two people, and a lady and a man, and we're doing the best communications we can. She literally grabs the cigar out of my hand,
Takes a puff.
take a couple puffs off of it. Like, sweet. It was that same night when walking down. That was one walking down. I was getting ready to get on a plane, so I was staying up all night. And the walking down the road, and they have all the little short tables there, the little red chairs, and they pull them out on the street at night, and that's where everybody's hanging out. And they have it everywhere. It's really common. So I walk by this table, and there's a water bottle, a plastic water bottle on the table, and it's all crinkled up. And I'm like, "How y'all doing? What do you got?" And they like, oh, eventually we get to it. They were two taxi drivers, this homemade vodka.
Yeah.
So I sat down with them, and they pretty much, like blowing out a bowl and
Yeah.
pulling it over and giving me some food that they had. It was outside this little restaurant, and I sat there and did a couple shots of homemade vodka with my Vietnamese cab drivers.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, definitely good. But smoking, so yeah. I'm just smoking wherever I go. People might not be real thrilled about some of the places I've smoked, but
Well, I hear Vietnam is very open to that overall.
right, yeah, they're.
I mean, I could tell you a story that when one of my Jewish customers went to Israel, he may have gotten a talking down to because he was smoking outside of one of the churches.
He's smoking by the Wailing Wall.
Excuse me, temples.
Temple.
I'm smoking outside the Blue Mosque. What are you doing then? That would be.
Oh.
Brian says Neanderthals could create and control fire. That was there.
Thank
that
you,
was
Brian.
there.
That was their evolutionary step. That was the whole point. They couldn't quite deal with the saber tooth.
Oh, that was the hard part.
Have you seen those teeth? I mean, it takes like you and 4 neighbors or 8, 10 neighbors to, kill that thing and probably lose 20% in the process.
Yeah, population control.
Oh,
See, I'll move this little studio around.
Yeah.
Every time I've been here, you've been in a whole different spot.
A little bit,
It's
a little
pretty
bit.
cool. Yeah, I like. It's a nice spot right here with the door open there.
Well, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
It helps with the airflow and. This is definitely a different departure. This is definitely a departure from the Meerapfel.
Now, but theoretically, this I will say is probably unobtainium in the other direction because do you have any ideas yet?
Well, I think of this as it's look at the white ash. This is. Sorry,
Oh,
no, it's off.
Let me go back to it. Hold on a second. There we go.
So look at the. Are we up in focus? Look at the white ash. Again, a razor sharp burn. Beautiful construction. This feels a little denser and a little. The bunching technique in this is different, so its burn rate is different.
And it comes from a house that usually does stronger things. So you're
Yeah.
going to get some more of that in here.
Yeah, in a way, it feels like a LaFleur Cameroon cabinet.
You are the buddy, my friend. Now, what this is
A special project.
no. These are their rolling school, whatever you want to call their
Training cigars.
Training cigars, absolutely. And
From the floor?
From LaFleur.
Oh.
This is a Cameroon cabinet Robusto or
Yeah.
Cameroon Robusto.
Yeah.
And when we brought LaFleur back into the shop, because the girl we have at LaFleur is the same girl that my boss dealt with 10 years ago. She remembered him. He flirted with her. Long story short, in our next order, 5 boxes of Andalusian Bulls showed up, and we were talking about these. So we initially brought the little Habano Petites in, and then
Yeah.
I was looking for the number 1, which is very hard to come by, but is my favorite size. But she sent us up a bunch of these. So I doubt you'll find them because I would suspect that all of the inventory of them either gets smoked around the factory to people we like or accounts that might know about it and ask us about it.
Well, visitors who've been there and understand that they exist,
Right.
and then they get a little love batch.
Right.
But the flavor it's
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, and like I said, it was just an interesting follow-up.
Oh yeah, because it's we're talking about a variation on a theme, but the blend, the ambition of this cigar is more or less a right angle to the Meerapfel.
Mhm.
By the way, in general, LaFleur cabinet cigars, regardless of the wrapper
Yeah.
or the size,
Yep.
are spectacular cigars, worth every penny, and memorable smokes every time. And the intensity of them is not necessarily to everyone's taste.
Like it. Absolutely.
but you have to respect both the cigar making, the blending, the quality of the tobacco. But if you have the patience to drop them in your humidor and ignore them for a while, they turn into their personality transforms.
Mhm.
And it's not to say that they are ugly ducklings when you get them, but they
No,
turn
but they
into
do so much more. When
they
when sit
transform
down. Yeah.
with a little age into the black swan.
Or caterpillar to butterfly.
Yes, that may be kinder. I was trying. Forgive me for using the ugly duckling,
Clearly.
but I all the elements of the flavor were there, so
Yeah.
I had to
I
make my.
I thought if either of you would get it, it would be you.
Well, Jay, I don't think Jay doesn't qualify as a LaFleur fan per se. He has other things that occupy his focus.
Yeah.
That would be a fair. That would be a fair statement.
Whereas I essentially worship at the Church of La Flor Dominicana. I think they're.
Lito Gomez is your pope.
I love Lido.
I gotta
Well,
say,
you know-
because
And by the way, I'm really proud of Tony. Lito's son, who has
Oh.
come into his own in terms of what he wants to do, which is be someone other than
His father.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's admirable.
and I
and
think-
not always
I
easily
think,
achievable.
I think the brand is better for the son's involvement.
Yeah,
Both,
exactly.
both of them.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I bought
Now, is it a J angle crab ball?
No.
Not yet.
but probably very few things are.
Right. Agreed. Thank you. But I love this, and I love the idea that we get to taste this, or you guys get to experience it in contrast to what we just did, because one is this thing which is in diapers,
Yeah.
and the other is a proof positive of
Patriarch of the family.
exactly.
Mm.
And the time is the ultimate transformer.
Mhm.
And many cigar makers do not know how to do that.
Yeah.
They don't understand how to build something that has a lifespan like that.
Right.
They make cigars for now.
And I on Lido, since I've gotten into, like I said, we've talked about before,
Mhm.
I smoke a lot more Lanceros than I ever did.
Mhm.
Lido, they came out with, so they discontinued a bunch of their Lanceros, but then they came out with a 5-pack of all of their
Of the Lancero blends.
right of Lancero blends, and single hair.
Not a double Ligero, a
I
regular
think they're
Ligero.
both Ligero. One's natural, one's Maduro. There's a Cameroon Lancero, and then there's a Coronado and an Airbender. And the Coronado was spectacular. And I actually looked to see if they were still around, and was
Well, yeah.
very sad to see that.
You have to find those from a retailer that basically
So,
hid them or didn't
right.
understand.
Left them in the back of the
what they
warehouse
had,
somewhere,
exactly.
and here's a couple boxes of
Yes.
Coronado Lanceros, because it was spectacular cigar.
But so is the Airbender Lancero, because the Airbender blends are.
Yeah, really.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
But this is it's a lesson in time.
And I think it's just interesting that for a young group of rollers,
Well, they
Yeah.
clearly understand the task
And
at hand, because these are beautifully made
they've been
cigars.
trading well, because
Yes.
these smoke fantastic. They
Exactly.
taste really good. So the tobacco production is where it needs to be. The rollers are doing their job, because again, for this pretty epic construction for
Is Stephen still awake and with us on
sure he
the
is.
on the in the Ono Live crew out at large? I'm curious about the LaFleur presence and or popularity in his market, in the shops that he goes to.
Let us know, Steve. Let us know.
But yeah, spectacular ash, nice and tight, nice and lightish gray. You know,
Wait, guys, do you see what he did? He just sort of snuck in here. He's got that bread. Are we supposed to tear at that bread, or can it be sliced?
You're eating it with cigars?
Yeah, why not?
Um,
Is there a knife in the
I won't
outside?
get him that.
I will.
Yeah, there. If you the light switches immediately up to your left, and then on the dish rack to your left on the sink, way above your head, way above, right there. There's also a knife in the dish rack.
I'm gonna cut it on something other than
Yeah.
your bar.
Yeah. There's a cutting board
There's a cutting board.
in the dish rack. There's a cutting board and a serrated knife.
So that was baked Wednesday morning, so 2 days. And I wrapped it right up in plastic. I don't know.
And this is from a yeast you've been cultivating?
Yes, this is a Korean, this is my
Korean yeast.
culture. Yes, my Korean yeast, my Korean starter. Buddy, I didn't even know.
You have to be careful when you eat this. It turns you into a zombie in the Korean TV show.
Oh. Train to Busan.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, let me get something as well.
proper butter.
Ooh, nice shot. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing these, because this is it's a lovely little coda to what we were doing.
Yeah, I thought it would be if we had time, it would be a nice little.
See,
Of course.
and I
This is a seed, by the way, not a cockroach or bug.
well, the camera couldn't see it, so I don't know why you brought it up.
I know, but you got
Pointed
it.
it out to make everybody jealous.
I was eating this other seeded bread earlier today.
And so, by the way, on behalf of Jeremiah and Reinhard, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to address the Meerapfel, and I hope that we will definitely later this year.
I think we have to thank you, because
Yeah,
you again
absolutely.
provided us with a fantastic smoking
Thank you, and
experience.
then to Jeremiah for the very beautiful generosity.
It's just a wonderful adventure. It's so great to have access to something like that, because there is literally nothing. There's nothing like it that we can.
The chef knows. Beautiful.
Oh,
Thank
you got
chef.
butter there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I think-
Now,
You should
sadly, this is not butter that
Whoops.
was.
Churned this morning.
Yeah, an Amish maid did not. So this was made Wednesday morning. Is that? Are we in focus?
Mhm.
This was made Wednesday
It's
morning.
80% hydration. It's the Korean starter. It's about 25% of the fresh ground rye.
Mm.
From
From the farm up there.
a farm. We got more
So
growing.
you're literally milling the rye yourself.
We have a
Wow.
So it's a small mill. It's not a big.
it's the plates are about this big.
Yeah.
And so
Like
just-
45
they have-
size.
They either have the
Right.
clay or metal plates, and
Yeah.
whichever ones they're using. I actually like this one a lot. I love the flavor of this one. I've been using a toasted corn flour to put in the baskets, and that's what I've been coating it in. And so it's got a little bit of a different flavor. So it's got a little bit of the rye, and then it's got a little bit of this toasted corn. And they're actually grinding the corn in the same grinder, so I'm getting a little bit mixed in with my
Right.
stuff.
The powder is.
So they're but
Please.
I'm using
Let me
that.
just,
So pretty good. I don't know. It's a pretty good open
I trust
crawl.
you.
Like I said, that's 80% hydration. This flour, the rye flour seems a lot. It's not as fine as the other stuff that I'm using, the high gluten stuff that I use, baking bread flour. And so I don't think if you can get the structure to be as open as with this flour, it kind of
Yeah.
breaks the structure down a little bit. It just won't puff up quite as much as, this was done in a Dutch oven.
Oh, okay.
I actually baked 4 loaves. I did 2 on a pizza stone, and those the batards, they were.
So you didn't have these in a
Yes.
basket in the old school.
I had them, yes, in a basket like this.
Mhm.
So I had 2 of the round and 2 of the ovals, and I baked 2 on the stone, and I baked 2 in Dutch ovens. So these were in the Dutch oven, so it gets pretty good. So it's pretty good. It makes a nice grilled cheese. They said that I make Reubens with them. So
It's a
come up
really,
with
I mean,
It's beautiful.
beautiful bread.
pretty neat bread. I mean, it's definitely different.
It's got a great crumb. But I can see this, when you do a Reuben on this, you toast the bread.
Yes, grill it.
Mhm.
Some nice fresh butter and grill the heck out of it. And, and our Reubens, I have them all pre-made, and then you take them and you put a nice coating of butter on them, grill them, and then you take them and put them in the oven and bake them. And so the crust on this gets really crispy on the outside, but the bread's really soft on the inside,
Yeah.
so it eats really well. And to make when you grill this, or I make grilled cheese for
Three-stage
people,
preparation
just a little
for a fucking Reuben.
I mean,
bit. Oh yeah.
are you surprised?
No.
No. I mean,
I haven't had. So Reuben's my favorite sandwich. Right up there, there's 1 and 2. And number 2 is I haven't had them yet this year. Soft crabs.
yep.
So soft crab on rye toast. So my sourdough, I haven't had one. I gotta get some crabs and bake some bread. But so this rye toast with a lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, and rye toast
Mhm.
is the Reuben is number 1. Soft
Oh,
crab
that
is
soft
right
shell
there.
crab is
I
right
don't-
there. We just did
It's right there. Yeah.
We just did the first soft shell crabs probably 2 weeks ago at my house, and
Yeah.
they were
They haven't
really,
been
really good.
real plentiful as far as I
No.
can tell, because nobody's been calling me and saying, crabs are in.
exactly.
Nuts.
No, we did a little searching up by me to get because I wanted fresh. I didn't want the frozen ones, and
Right, yeah. Yeah, they're a little bit around. There will be once the moon is coming up. I think it's coming up. There ought to be some in the next week or 2.
Want another piece?
Sure. No problem.
I don't want to,
didn't want to
leave you
twist
out.
your arm, Mike.
Right.
Kind of small for Mike.
Yeah, I like
The
a
bottom,
couple bigger
the bottom.
pieces. And there's a little bit
Nice
more.
bigger piece, yeah.
What do you mean when you say 80% hydration?
So the amount of liquid I use 1,000 grams of flour and 800 grams of liquid.
Sorry, excuse my fingers.
You
Mike.
can get up higher than that. I use about as high as I go. And you can go 100% hydration. I can work with it, but you have to be familiar working with doughs when you're working with 100% hydration or 95% hydration. And that's how you get the real open crumb where you get the huge holes in it. You got to go up there at 100%. At least with my flour.
Well, and you usually have to knead them more and you do longer rises.
And yet, so this only rises for 4 hours.
Hmm.
It's really so first I got to feed the starter and it takes 4 hours to double, and then make bread. And so it's a different all year long. It's different. Right now I proofed this out on the back porch the other night about 75 degrees, and it actually a little less than 4 hours. In the winter, I got to do all kinds of crazy stuff to get it to a
Hot towels, spa treatments.
all kinds of stuff. Yeah, no, so it's sort of fun. Baking is fun, and it changes all year long of how you get the stuff to go.
Mhm.
I like these loaves. I'm probably going to try it again next week. I'm going to make some more.
Tasty. Absolutely. Now, on your favorite sandwich, do you make your own Thousand Island dressing, or do you choose
Yes. Yeah, I
Most
make some
things
type of
are
Russian
crazy.
Thousand Island, and actually, but we put
Well, that messing up.
Dijon on one side
Wow.
and the
It
Thousand
makes me
Island
happy.
on the
but
other.
it's also-
The only reason I asked this is because I was again, for some reason, I don't know
But I'm
why.
drinking.
I guess that's
There was
what's
corned
happening.
beef in the house, and so I was in the mood for a Reuben. And I
Fried
had
crab
coleslaw, so
balls,
technically it would be
bread,
not quite a Reuben, but
all three are
Um,
like, no, contraindicated.
I didn't have Russian or
That's
Thousand
what
Island
it'll
Mix
dressing.
it up real quick.
So I'm
What's that?
like,
That's what we
I'm
do.
not going to go out and buy a thing of dressing just for this sandwich weekend that I want to have. So I was like, I could bake this. So I'm like, look at them, I'm like, yeah, all right, I like that, I like that, I like that. So I whipped up a batch, and it does make a huge difference. that fresh versus something
Fresh sauce, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
we make our own. I put a little horseradish in mine. It's a little bit of the
Kick.
a little bit of the relish, I think. I don't know. It's never been the same twice. It's sort of one of those things that just don't together when I'm making
that's
style.
half the fun, right? I mean,
Yeah. It's my restaurant. Everything is we hope it's consistently good.
right. May not be
It's not
consistent
exactly the
exact
same
flavor
every
profiles,
time,
but it's
because-
always going to be good.
But that's what
Changes.
rewards repeat visitors to salsa.
Get to see something a little different.
Yeah.
We try.
For those of you at home who are now looking at your kitchen going, "Wah, what do I have that
Why don't I have bread
compares
like that?
to crab balls and fucking fresh baked bread?" No one told me this was the Galloping Gourmet.
I figured you all needed a snack since you're doing this.
Very kind. Very
this
kind.
long.
We do appreciate it, Jay.
It is a great lift, makes us all thrilled, and enables us to power through Cigar 2.0.
And in fact, the tobacco production on this cigar, I think for something that is theoretically young, there's still no harshness. There's no, ill flavors.
They're not. There's no sour notes.
No.
There's no. It's not aggressive. It doesn't grab you by the throat, and it's not punching you in the chest going, "We're smoking now." But it is bolder than many.
Absolutely.
It has more. It has broader shoulders than most Dominican cigars.
Does Fuente make anything like this?
No,
No.
Your Cameroons are Don Carlos and Hemingways.
Well, the
And-
regular Fuente line has, but they're not designed to be this muscular.
Mhm.
Because remember,
Lito was the outsider on the back in the day because he was outside of the traditional Dominican flavor profile.
he was proving that Dominican cigars could have the same body and the same depth and complexity too. Let's not be unfair to him because it isn't like the cigars were one note.
No, but definitely.
Is that to say because people thought that Dominicans
People were
all too
dismissing
light?
Dominican cigars as too mild.
Yeah.
That's the reason. I mean, that kind of philosophy is what led to Nicaragua's, explosive growth.
But by extension, does that mean they were dismissive of Fuente products as well?
Well, Fuente, Davidoff, Casada, and everything from STG and from Altadas was dismissed as those are
Wimpy cigars.
mild and
Now, what era was this?
well, it started in the 90s. It started in the Fuentes had already proved that you could work magic in the Dominican Republic, and they basically put everybody else there on notice that the Dominican Republic as a country producing premium cigars could offer greater range, more complexity. The old days, you had 2 or 3 at most seed types of tobacco being grown in the Dominican Republic, all of which were fermented and aged deliberately to be mild to medium at most, and they were wrapped with Cameroon or Connecticut, depending upon the personality that they were trying to achieve, and that's it. And so, if you're thinking about a strength scale of 1 to 10, say, to make it simple, all of them lived in 4.5 to 6.5.
4.5 to 6.5.
Yeah,
So I'm really asking because when I started really getting into cigars in probably 94, 95,
Mhm.
from what I recall, Fuente was already relatively well established, very well regarded.
Yeah.
People like the Don Carlos #3 was, people were going crazy over them.
Yes.
The green line was very popular. So
When you
how I'm
say the
going,
green line, you mean the green ribbon
like,
around
the green ribbon. yeah.
the
So
footband
Grand
around
Reserve
the,
of
The main one, the main
Yes,
line.
exactly.
Right? So that's why I'm wondering, like, what era were they maligned?
Well, it's not that they were maligned, it's that in the larger scheme of things, so not what American consumers per se were thinking, but what the global cigar mafia, the taste mavens were dismissive of Dominican cigars as lacking the character and authority. And there were a lot of cigar makers who were looking outside the bounds. They wanted tobacco that would allow them to give a backbone and depth and power that they couldn't achieve at that time. They didn't think they could achieve in the Dominican Republic. Of course, that's also right around the time that Carlito changed the whole world's perception of what happens in the Dominican Republic by releasing Puente Puente Opus X. That's there are 4 or 5 paradigm shifts in the premium cigar business from the second half of the 20th century through where we are now in the 21st. And the two center, the Dominican Republic was changed in 1990 by Davidoff releasing the white label cigars from the Dominican Republic, which proved complexity, depth of character, but not about strength. Carlito.
It was just one second. Was that when Davidoff really started moving away from Cuban production?
In November of 1990, we launched the new generation of white label Davidoff, and they were something that had not been seen from the Dominican Republic to that time. And the fact that they produced these different blends. In other words, there was the Grand Cru, the Siri Meal, and what they now call the Signature Series, which included the number 1, the number 2, and the Anniversarios. Those, in other words, the idea that you could take this tobacco from the Dominican Republic and in combination with both U.S. and Ecuador wrappers, you could make cigars that were recognizably in the same family, the same house style, but you had different variations in terms of flavor and body, right? Because that was the mission between Grand Cru, Siri Meal, and the Signature was power. So Davidoff does that. In 1992, Carlito gets Puente Puente Opus X underway, but it really doesn't hit the world until 94. And at the same time, George and his dad, Jose Orlando, released the 1964, the Anniversario series of Padron, and that changes the world's perception of what happens in Nicaragua. Those 3 things in that period right there changed the premium cigar business, and ultimately it rippled throughout the rest of the world as well. The effects are still being calibrated right now, but those 3 events are seminal in everything that's happening in the premium cigar world today. And the result of each of those decisions are things that are continuing to rise in stature as Cuba tumbles farther down the mountaintop.
Now, in 90, when Davidoff was making that change, how much of a departure was their new white label from their Cuban production in terms of flavor and experience?
Well, and see, those are 2 different things. In terms of experience, they were very, very much in the same vein and living in the same range in terms of complexity and finesse. In terms of just pure taste, like if you were to sit there and employ a scientist with a spectrometer and gas chromatograph, you would end up having different congeners of flavor from the Cuban tobacco than you do from the Dominican tobacco blend that they were achieving. But the personality, the intent of what they were doing was 100% faithful, 100% faithful to what they had been trying to achieve with Cuba. And don't forget, the Davidoff white label, the way Davidoff made their fame was that they were a better Cuban cigar than the Cubans were making. They were applying their standards, both in terms of blending, quality control, and aging. And the reason for the break is that the Cubans were furious that Davidoffs were more expensive than their sister cigars from Cuba Tobacco. And they were absolutely furious.
Now, during that era, was Henke Kellner involved in the Cuban production, or was he strictly
Never? No. The break from Cuba. By the way, how about this? I'm already planning this I want to give a seminar about Davidoff White Label and what the evolution. In other words, from the new generation of Davidoff White Label is it's an earthquake in the cigar business and achieving the dominance. They are consistently still. This takes nothing away from the Fuentes or the Padrones in terms of their global outreach. In other words, how their brands have earned respect in the marketplace in the years since their creation. But the only company in the world that consistently faces down Habanos and the Cuban cigars is Davidoff, market by market by market. So if you say that Cuban cigars are available in probably 180 countries in the world, Davidoff is probably available in 160. And they perform equally well, if not better, in many of them. The fact is that they are stricter adherents of blend integrity and mission control about what the cigar is supposed to be and what the consumer is supposed to experience from it. The Church of Davidoff is as pure as it gets. Now, is the end result, the flavor, necessarily what everybody wants? No, there's a Fuente Opus X delivers something different, and Padron, particularly 1926 in the Family Reserve, is another thing altogether. Yeah. But each of those three things is artwork, and each of them stand toe to toe with any Havana cigar today. Now I'm not necessarily saying that Fuente Opus X or a Padron Family Reserve or a Davidoff would be perceived exactly the same as a certain Cuban cigars from the 1980s, because they were growing different tobacco then, and there was something else was happening in the factories at that moment. But what that era is gone, both in terms of production, of farming, in other words, all the pre-industrial aspects and the industrial. So pre in the fields and in the factories, they are doing things differently today, which we have to, if we're being honest, we have to evaluate. And when you put them against Fuente Opus X, Davidoff White Label, like the Royal Reserve, which is a religiously extraordinary cigar, a Meerapfel cigar, or a Padron Family Reserve, to be honest, especially when you take the prices into consideration, if you opt for a Cuban cigar, in that your taste buds are either horribly corrupted or you are a pure label snob who is only, and listen, there's a whole lot of people. There are people to this day who, turn their nose up at great American wines like, Napa Valley and Central Coast, and some things that are grown in Oregon and Washington and produced there, in favor of first growth Bordeaux or their favorite Burgundy. In other words, the way they were raised and how they were educated about what fine wine is and how you enjoy it, for them, the only thing that hits their taste buds is a Bordeaux, or French Burgundy, exactly. And there's nothing else that is ever going to supplant that. I feel sorry for them, but that, it is what it is. And the same thing is true in the cigar world. There are people who were taught to smoke cigars based on Cuban cigar experiences, and they refuse to acknowledge, or they refuse to open their eyes to all of the changes that have occurred, to realize that the cigars they're smoking now are a shadow of what they learned to smoke in the 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s, because there were remarkable things happening there then. But you cannot deny the struggles, the agricultural. But a good cigar maker can take average material and make a much more enjoyable cigar than a poor cigar maker. But you cannot transform mediocre raw material into an epic, legendary cigar. It won't work. It's not possible. It's just like Chef Jay can't take crappy material into the kitchen and work magic.
Right.
Your mission is always, I've got to start with the best raw material. what I was trying to say is that I want to, I've already sort of outlined, I was going to do it at Capitol. That's not to take anything away from Raul or anybody else, but I'm creating a Davidoff experience which teaches you about white label cigars and the evolution. In other words, how they were born to be the successor to the great Havana cigars that they produced, and how they have blossomed into something much more complex and diverse. So that, in other words, the portfolio of Davidoff. So, by the way, we're a long fucking way away from Meerapfel. Sorry, Joshua and Jeremiah. Sorry, Reinhard. We've now moved on, but we're still in the rarefied era of the greatest cigars in the world. The Davidoff palette is much wider and more diverse, and deserves respect, attention, and celebration.
Now, before I took us on this
Tangent.
Davidoff tangent,
Mhm.
you were about to talk more about the Fuente and their emergence into the scene.
The Fuentes in the 1980s changed everybody's perspective about what the Dominican Republic could be. They first of all, they created the modern era's awareness of figurado cigars as opposed to just parejos. They elevated people being sophisticated blends that are more complex and rested longer to achieve a different personality. In other words, they started making cigars that were way outside the bounds of what people recognized as a typical Dominican cigar. And in many instances, they did it outside of having the very best Cameroon tobacco in the world as a result of the long-standing connection between the Meerapfel family and the Fuente family. They did it many times using the same materials. So this is before Don Carlos allowed Carlito to create Chateau de la Fuente and build that business. You know, that was $1 million gamble. But anyway,
So they had already established themselves as a.
well, they had already risen above the crowd. They were already recognized as doing something different, and in many, I mean, depending upon your position, you could recognize that they were superior. I mean, listen, the Fuente Hemingway turned the people were like, oh
What
my
is
God,
this?
where the hell did this come from? And then the Don Carlos blend comes along, and people went, this is the greatest Dominican cigar I've ever had. Or who knew that this was possible?
So the main line, the Hemingway, the Don Carlos, those were under Don Carlos
Yes.
rule, and then the reign
Fuente Opus X. Carlito begins
Yes.
with creating Opus X.
Is that when
with
he
doing
takes
it in
over?
the farm? Well, he doesn't take over.
He
No, because Don Carlos was still there and still busy and created some other things afterwards. But he let Carlito have his way. Carlito became so focused on what was happening down in Mocha, where the farm is, where Chateau de la Fuente is, that he was the only time that he was actually in Santiago, where the factories are in the Zona Franca, was to work with this elite set of rollers. So there was always the Hemingways were made by we used to call it the Erie. They had this little the crow's nest. They had this little elevated room upstairs where the rollers who had gotten good enough to make Hemingway cigars were located. They weren't on the main gallery floor where the classic Hemingways where the classic Fuentes were being made. And in that room, there was only one guy that could make the masterpiece, which was the 9-inch long cigar, and there was only one guy that could make the short story.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
One guy. And if he had a bad, if he didn't come to work, the
That
short
would
story production was
Tank for the week.
damaged for the and it meant export for the month was down. But then he started grooming a whole new set of rollers who would become the people that worked with the tobacco that they were growing at the farm, and it required not just a different set of standards, but look, you have to grow familiar with the properties of the raw material. And so, for instance, when the Cubans started trying to make, return to doing Maduro tobacco in the late 90s and early aughts, They were a disaster because more than a generation had passed and they had no fucking idea how to do it. They didn't know how to ferment it. They didn't know how to work it in the factories, and they certainly didn't know how to blend it. So all those early cigars were, catastrophe. And the thing is that if they had had rollers still working from the 1950s, they would have said, no, you have to handle this, you have to do that. They would have rejected the material they were bringing to them and saying, you can't use this. This is not, you're not going to get the result that you want. But they didn't have that. That knowledge was lost. It skipped. And so it took them some time to learn. And remember, at that time, there were a lot of sophisticated things being done. People were starting to put more money into what was happening in Pennsylvania. The Connecticut broadleaf crop was being respected in a way that it hadn't been before. So everybody was paying more attention to what that meant. And that meant that they were also evolving in not just in their skills, but in the discipline that they were applying to what it meant. And when you present somebody with new material, they have to take some time to learn not only how to handle it, but how it behaves with everything else. And that's why there's experiments. And you can have a beautiful, you could smoke something right off the bench and go, I love what this is happening. But when it calms down, when it has rested in the cabinets, and then you try it, let alone when it gets exported, it becomes something completely different. And sometimes it's a surprise, and sometimes it's a disappointment. But that's what you have to do.
And projecting that is an art. I mean, it's
it's somewhere between an art and a science, because you have to have, there's a skill level involved in that doesn't have. That's one of the things that Henke was great at. Was quantifying these things in very specific ways, and not guessing.
But with the Opus X project and Chateau de la Fuente,
Was all Carlito.
that was.
Was all Carlito. Don Carlos let him have his way.
But what I'm asking is that all the tobaccos are grown on Chateau de la Fuente for Opus X, or is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that does not mean, like, for instance, to go back to something we were talking about earlier, the Ashton ESG is the only cigar out there, to my knowledge, still the only cigar out there that uses tobacco grown on Chateau de la Fuente, especially the wrapper.
Right. And that was, I think, really the kind of that project where it was a complete departure for them, was developing the Chateau Fuente wrapper that went on
ESG.
And
grading the wrapper that they would
Opus.
use in that cigar to create, because they wanted something that was dialed down a little to fit the Ashton portfolio. They needed something which wasn't necessarily as bold
as a VSG, right?
Have we? What time is it?
10:42.
So we're pushing the boundary here. I'm not. You know me. It's I was vaccinated by a phonograph needle, so I can talk all night. But
No, it's good. This is good. But speaking of Maduro, that's something I was curious. I've heard people say that with Padron production, natural and Maduro are the same wrapper,
same tobacco.
but the one is actually
fermented
different.
different.
Okay.
It's worked different.
I've heard people say that they just look for the darker of during the grading of the color
Well,
separation.
you're sorting, but it's the same tobacco. It probably, my guess is that they start out with a slightly different priming. In other words, a different level of where the leaves are, but they're fermented differently to get the darker color.
I see.
But it's not different tobacco.
Okay.
It's not a different,
But it truly is different fermentation rather than just.
Well,
Color sorting.
so that's supposedly, what separates true Maduro from these other things.
Yeah, Maduro, it actually doesn't refer to a color. It refers to
Fermentation process.
Exactly.
Mom appreciates all the discussion.
Well, thank you,
Thanks
Mom.
for hanging in there with us,
Yes, we appreciate it. And we wish that you were here with us.
Mhm.
Yeah, Maduro means ripe. It's not a color.
Right.
Maduro means ripe. So the what that does is explain that it's about fermentation. It's about how long you take to get it to that stage.
Which is also, I think, why inherently people think darker is stronger,
Yeah.
and that if it's classical, if it's a true
That's a
Maduro,
canard.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not going to be that. Yeah, you're going to increase the amount of richness in it, but you are also
But
going
not
to,
necessarily the strength. In fact, many times you're softening it.
right, because you're getting more sugar and more.
Depending upon the seed type, it can be significantly sweeter.
Absolutely.
Again, which addresses the idea of you have to know how to blend that to achieve. In other words, you've got to know what the properties are of the tobacco that you're working. And remember that the results of that fermentation process vary dramatically from the Dominican Republic to Nicaragua to Honduras.
Mhm.
In other words, I think not only not just how they're doing it, but why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Is a little bit different.
I see.
And I mean,
That'd be an interesting comparison for us, by the way, is a blindfold test of 3 Maduros and then see if we can name which is Dominican, which is Nicaraguan, and which is Honduran.
and I mean, I think, you can pretty much, with the exception of, say, Davidoff, putting a Connecticut shade wrapper on a filler and binder is a much easier thing to do without reblending the inside, because it's such just a creamy addition to what's already
Plays nice with what's there.
with almost everything.
Yeah. Which used to be, by the way, interestingly enough, that used to be the calling card of Cameroon, is that it plays nice with all tobaccos.
Yeah.
You can use it in any country. You can use it in combination with this amazingly diverse variety of tobaccos, and it always adds a layer of finesse and elegance.
Mhm.
And also, generally, people would say a little, like a hint of sweetness, not overt sweetness, not lollipop sweetness,
No.
but a hint of sweetness to the overall blend.
Yeah.
That would be missing otherwise, especially if you were going to use something like a shade-grown Connecticut.
Yeah.
So they were great counterpoints. Thanks for these. They're fun.
Yeah, these are great.
Yeah,
It's
it was
just
like I
really
said, it was
fun.
just an interesting little
Yep.
side trip.
So I wonder how long it takes for a roller to get to this point.
Well, that's graduation. So,
Back to training cheetah.
right.
A little patience, a little time, a lot of beatings.
But on average, like how long do you think it takes for a roller to be trained to this level?
I think it depends on the person doing the teaching. You can get somebody to be a competent cigar maker. In other words, to understand how to assemble the materials and what the technique is in 6 or 8 weeks. But does that mean that they're an artist? Does that mean that they have mastery of all the materials? Does that mean that they can make a diverse array of vitolas, different shapes? No.
And I would think no. And the reason I think no is because when I went to Perdomo in 2015, Nick's idea, which was kind of counter to the industry at large, was your graduation, not graduation, but your pay steps go by what you can roll.
Yeah.
Okay. So he had a couple of guys at his factory who were phenomenal at rolling petites.
Mhm.
And they were due to move up to the next thing, whether it was Robusta or whatever. And Nick wanted to keep them rolling petites because they were
great at
because
it,
they were great at it.
and they had an audience for it.
Absolutely. So he went to him. He said, "Look, I know you're, due to
You want to graduate.
right. I know you're due to go to the next level." He's like, "But I need you here. I'm going to pay you according to your step up, but I need you rolling petites." And they were happy. Nick was happy, and
So were the customers.
Yeah.
guess we should wrap it up here.
I think it's a fine place to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's very nice. All right.
So, eggnog contest, according to Tony. Eggnog for Christmas time. A party before the end of the summer to celebrate the anniversary of last summer's party.
Correct.
So we're marking the anniversary of the party with a party.
Sprofest in
Sprofest
August.
too,
Sprofest
All right,
too.
sounds good.
right? And then in early to middle fall, we will revisit a new Meerapfel blend, a new addition to the family.
All right. Excellent.
These all sound like good things to me.
Oh, sounds great. Sounds great. And thank you, Jay, for bringing the
Pleasure.
food here.
Thanks
The
for having
crab
me.
cakes and bread were amazing.
Crab balls. Let's
Crab
not
balls,
go.
crab balls,
Let's
crab
not run
balls,
away.
crab balls.
We don't want anybody at home thinking that Jay makes crab cakes that look like.
Golf balls,
No.
ping pong balls.
Exactly.
And thank
Those
you
were
and the
spectacular.
Meerapfels for
Thank you.
bringing the cigars tonight.
Oh,
Oh well, yes.
Thank you very much. It was
Jeremiah and Reinhard, we salute you. That was a great. I loved smelling their cigars.
We're just sad George didn't get to join us because it was a fantastic
That
spec.
was definitely it. All right, we're back next week, Thursday at 8 p.m. as always. So thanks very much for tuning in.
Where we'll be
and,
smoking Black and Milds
We'll be
from
Black and
the
Milds.
CVS.
and Cleopatra's.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in and see
Night
you then.
all.